This podcast is brought to you in part by PNP Games, your online source for everything video games. Visit their website at pnpgames.com or at one of their 3 retail locations in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Let's get started.
Everybody, and welcome to the Bonus Stage Podcast. This is episode number 52. We're recording this
again.
52, take 2. Recording this on Friday, December 20th, 2013. As always, I'm your host, Lloyd Hannison, and joining me for the last time, Jeff Ward. Jeff, how are you doing?
That sounded, I think your voice went a little bit too deep and serious when you brought that in. It sounded like
time.
Yeah, like I'm on my deathbed or something. Coming to you live from the Health Science Center, the ICU. Jeff Almost Dead Ward. What was the question again?
There wasn't a question. You just interrupted me when I was doing my intro.
I know, because, well, it's the last show, so I can do whatever I want.
I can also mute you, so it works.
Yeah.
It works both ways.
Yeah, you could.
All right, so
I could mute myself and take that power right out of your hands.
You could very much. We have a guest, so he could just replace you for the intro as well.
Sure, go for it.
All right. Well, this is episode 52. We're a little punch drunk because this is the second take for this episode. We recorded an epic 2.5 hour episode talking about our top 10 games from the last generation. And for some reason, the recording ended at 49 minutes instead of 2 hours and 35 minutes or whatever it was. So we lost all of the gold, including at the end where I totally punked Jeff and had him speechless.
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome.
That was good.
I wish
the way it went was both of us had the same game of the generation, right? And we were gonna say at the same time, and I was gonna say Campus Crush to fuck with him, and then you said some other game, and I was like, "What, are you kidding me?"
I said Skylander Swap Force.
Yeah, and I bought in. I bought in 100%, and he's like, "No, I'm just kidding." And I'm like, he fucking got me with the thing that I was trying to get him with, and I was so pissed.
You're too slow. You need to be more agile.
I was caught off guard. I figured that my idea of changing up my game was so revolutionary that no one but me could have had that thought.
It just shows how naive and young you are, Jeff. You will learn with a little bit of seasoning. You will learn. I don't know what that was. Anyway, let's get into the show. This is going to be our last show for 2013. As you can tell, it's the holidays. I'm wearing my Jets jersey and my Jets holiday hat, my Santa hat.
I've got a Christmas tree behind me.
And you got a Christmas tree behind you. And there's elves dancing around my house. So it's really Christmassy. It's great. But this is going to be our last show of 2013. And this is going to be the last show in the current format for the bonus stage. There's going to be a lot of changes in the new year. Unsure what those are. But Jeff is retiring from the show. He has things to do. He has a non-compete contract with where he's working right now, so he has to give up on the best thing to ever happen to him just because of this new job. So he's going to take some time. So Jeff, we wish you well.
Yeah, thanks. All of what you said was a lie. So
not all of it. Not all of it. You're not going to be here next year. That's not
true.
A lie.
Okay, there was one piece of that was not a lie.
Exactly. So yeah, there's going to be some huge changes to what this show becomes in 2014. But don't worry, if you check out vgpodcast.com, we're still going to be running the Nintendo Pulse. We're going to be doing Touch of Gaming. There's probably going to be some other stuff happening in the new year as well. So never you mind. There's going to be lots of podcast love coming to you from vgpodcast.com. And for this episode, we got a bit of a special episode for you. This is going to be our 2013 rather, Game of the Year. We're going to run down the top 10 games from our own personal lists. And if you know Jeff, he's made 27 lists of lists and more lists. So it's going to be interesting as we as we go through that. It's going to be great.
This list was a lot easier to make having already made a top 10 games of Gen 7 list, because I already knew just like where certain things were going to fit, because I was, using basically a significantly less deep pool of games to dig from, right? There was probably this year for me, maybe 30 or so games that were like, deserving to be on a list. And it was pretty easy to cut out 15 of those right off the bat. So a lot easier than going through like 1,000 games of the last generation, which was pretty tough. But I still did make 3 versions of this list.
Of course you did, Jeff. Of course you did.
I can't decide. It's so hard to rank. Like, what does a sports game like deserve a better spot than a shooter just because I enjoy shooters more, even though the sports game is a better game? How do you rank it? It's tough, right? Or at least it's maybe too tough for me, and that's why I'm quitting.
It's tough for some people. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. Okay, cool. So we're going to be doing our game of the year. We'll also run down our top 10 games from the last generation as well. We'll probably give you a teaser at the start and then finish it up at the end. But that's not all. This week we have a special guest. We have Brad Crawford from the 100 Yen Film. If you're not familiar with that, if you go to 100yenfilm.com, so 100yenfilm.com, this is a great movie that came out last year, I believe 2012, late 2012. And it basically covers the Japanese arcade experience. So we have Brad here to talk about the movie, about a special deal that is going on, and also how awesome it is to be another Winnipeg film developer dealing in video games, because we've already had Indie Game the Movie in Winnipeg. We tend to have a thing for gaming documentaries here in Manitoba, which is pretty damn cool. So Brad, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. So tell us a bit about what 100 Yen, the Japanese arcade experience, is.
So essentially is a historical documentary about the history of the Japanese arcades. I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory in the title, but it was really just an adventure in terms of exploring what the arcades are and why they still exist in Japan.
Sorry, Jeff, I was expecting you to jump in right there. So sorry, I didn't have anything lined up. My bad. It's the last show. You gotta excuse.
I was reading the chat room, and I was like, oh, this got silent for a second. So Brad, you we've talked before about this, and the first time that I saw footage was at Ghosty's replay event, I believe in 2011. So we're talking a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago at least. And I remember seeing footage of, I believe it's the warehouse, which is this creepy kind of abandoned, basically warehouse that's made up, and there's an arcade inside of it. So how long did it take you from like the genesis of the idea, like I want to do a documentary on this, to okay, this thing is done and now ready for release in a DVD form? Like what was the kind of the journey? Because you had to go to Japan, obviously, and spend some time there, which is not an easy or cheap thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It took a lot longer than I guess we initially had anticipated. First of all, I was headed back to Japan anyway. I had lived there for a few years and then moved back to Winnipeg, and I decided to go back to Japan for my friend's wedding. So I happened to be going back anyway, and so I, being a filmmaker, and I was bringing my camera with me, obviously, and Japan, as it's so filmable, I was like, okay, I need to document this culture in some way that is related to me and what I'm interested in. So for me, something that really stuck with me when I came back to Canada after living there for 3 years was the fact that arcades not only still exist in Japan, but they're hugely prolific. I mean, they're everywhere. We're talking, you can't walk down the street and not run into one of these things. So it was that really led me to the whole process. And I got really lucky in the sense that when I started filming, I released a trailer and we kind of followed the indie game the movie path, where we went for crowdsourced funding, and were successful, fortunately, via Indiegogo. We got about $15,000, which wasn't a lot of money, but enabled us to go back to Japan again. So essentially spent 2 months total filming in Japan, which ends up being about 3 terabytes of footage.
Wow.
Or several hundred hours, I think, of actual captured footage. So the good thing about the second trip was that we had funding and things like that, so we could um, interact with a lot of companies such as Sega, such as Taito, and big arcade companies, and we were able to go to their headquarters and actually meet and speak with them, and meet other, professional video game players like Daigo Umehara, who's a well-known Street Fighter player, and Brian Ashcraft, who writes for Kotaku and things like that. But the process in and of itself, I mean, took so long because we had to translate everything, right? There's tons of Japanese in the film. It's probably 75% Japanese. So that was, I mean, you just can't anticipate how long things like that are going to take.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so I've seen the movie, and I really enjoyed it. I saw it at Cinematheque over the course of the summer, actually, when you came here to screen it in the city. And one of the things that stuck out to me was not only are arcades everywhere, but they're huge. I mean, they're like 4 floors, and they have hundreds of machines. In some cases, maybe even like 200 or 300 machines at a time in these places, and they're all different styles of games. One of the floors might be devoted to just fighting games, another floor to metal games. Talk about that. Like, what is it like inside one of these arcades? Because here in Canada and North America, like, where I remember arcades being is like, you got a wall of pinball machines, you got some fighting games, Simpsons game is there, and a couple of racing games, and then always air hockey for some stupid reason, even though that game sucks. That's always there. So what is it like inside these Japanese arcades?
And before you do that, can you confirm that you get lung cancer just walking within 25 feet of a Japanese arcade? Is that true, Brad?
I don't know. I mean, it used to be. It's slowly filtering. They actually do have like filters in these locations now, and smoking rooms. So I mean, that is still true. I mean, it's true in anywhere in Japan, right? They smoke like chimneys no matter where you are in the country, which is kind of disappointing. But in terms of the arcades themselves, you really have to like kind of throw away your preconceptions of arcades based on your North American upbringing, I guess, because they're almost so dissimilar that you wouldn't even recognize it, other than the like bright lights and noises that are emitting from these places. I mean, they're massive, right? We're talking like 5-6 stories on average. They don't have space to build out in Japan, right? So instead they build up, and it's just like these mazes of games, and they're elaborate games, like huge, massive consoles that we've never seen before. I mean, they've got these card games that you can interact with them via trading cards. They've got the music games, all of the mixes of every Dance Dance Revolution. Ones that we've never seen come to North America are just like hugely popular there. And they're constantly evolving. They're always changing, importing new games, because in Japan, all of these companies, are Japanese, right? All of the game companies, the ones that make these games, are based out of Japan. So of course they just are throwing money towards these things because it's still a viable economic, kind of business model. Whereas in North America, I mean, we had these, tiny little hole in the wall kind of places, at least where we're from, at least, I'm sure in major American cities, like even in LA, they still have arcades. But in smaller cities, it's just not a thing anymore. It just doesn't exist, except maybe like a bastardized version over at the movie theater or something.
Yeah, which is a very, like, every time I go to Silver City Apollo Park, it's depressing, the arcade. Like, just not only in what's available to play, but just in the state of the games and how poorly they're taken care of is really, just kind of sad to see. Like, that's really, like, why arcades, like, or maybe one of the biggest reasons why people don't want to build an arcade here, because they're just treated like shit anywhere else, right? Like, why would you want to put together a store and have a bunch of machines where people are just going to get mad if they lose a quarter and, break it or something like that? So that's pretty sad. So you also did some work in Vegas. There's a particular scene near the end of the film where you go to a place called Insert Coins. Talk about how this arcade is different from the Japanese arcades, but also taking some significant inspiration.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Vegas, I guess, is it's so tourist based, right? So they can kind of still utilize that idea of bringing foot traffic into a location like an arcade. But of course, in Vegas, to really gather people and have it appeal to the masses, you have to include something like alcohol or more of a club style atmosphere, I guess. So what Insert Coins did, they were fairly involved with the creation of the film itself, in terms of we wanted to kind of compare and contrast the North American scene and what it was, and then to the Japanese scene and what it maybe could be in the future, or where it's trying to go down the road with things like barcades and of course Insert Coins now. So we examined this like new kind of business model of the arcade, and it's working. I mean, it's successful. It's busy. People seem to be very excited about the fact that that they have access to like the classic kind of childhood experience. But it's also been updated. I mean, we've got like a bar that has a ton of big screen TVs that you sit down at, and you can choose whatever console you want to play, and you choose. They hand you a controller along with your drink, and you get to play whatever video game you want, and then you can grab your drink, and every single arcade cabinet has drink holders attached to the arcade cabinet, so you can plug your quarters in, play some Donkey Kong, play some Asteroids, whatever you feel like playing. They've got older, newer kind of games. They got Simpsons, they got Ninja Turtles, like that kind of fun, nostalgic driven business model, and it's working. I mean, they opened another one in Minneapolis, which is pretty close to us. So it's out on the location of it's actually just on the old strip in Fremont, the Fremont East location. So yeah, check it out if you're in Vegas.
Cool. Yeah, you were talking about the drink holders on the side of the machines, and I remember seeing some of the footage inside of a Taito arcade, and they have like Taito branded ashtrays to go along with what Lloyd was talking about. Like everybody smokes in these places, but they take such good care of them. Like all the machines look brand new. Like they're just always clean. And I think there's a part of the movie where some guy talks about how when you're there playing, as soon as you leave, there's usually somebody that comes along and wipes down the machine like it's a gym or something. Like they really take care of these things.
Yeah, not only do they have like a dedicated cleaning staff that's like actively, making sure everything's in pristine shape, but they change out parts like pretty regularly. We went to one of the more indie arcades and really talked to him about, this is where people go and break world records. Like this is a hardcore, like they need things to be working properly. And so he says he changes out like a button or the actual stick itself, maybe once a month, once every couple months, depending on how active people are, kind of thing. So, it's a lot of love that goes into the maintain, of the arcades, and that's why you can see that, pretty immediately.
Yeah. What are some of the standout games in some of these arcades for you?
Well, obviously the music games are some of the more entertaining ones to watch people play, because they take it to a whole nother level. I mean, it's just this performance art, we're talking, they're doing cartwheels over Dance Dance pads, they're jumping over the beams, they're flipping over things, they're running around the arcade in between beats, they're making you, they're entertaining you, and it's become more of an entertainment kind of like sport almost. So that's really fun to kind of experience, because it's like you could literally just walk into an arcade. We were downtown Tokyo, and we were filming with some people that we knew, and then this couple walked in and they just blew the place up. Like there was a whole crowd formed, and they were just dancing like crazy. Like you can see it in the trailer. It's just this ridiculous stuff. And that's something that really draws people in. But I mean, for me personally, it's the wacky kind of style, strange games that we never see in North America, like the table flipping game. I mean, you literally bang on a table to get your boss's attention. Like everyone in the office stops and looks at you, and you bang it again, and they're like, "Oh, well, what's going on?" And then you flip it. Like you're sick of this shit, and you flip the table, and literally you get points for how much damage you do in the office. Like the more things you break, the better you've done in the game. So like that type of experience, I mean, it really definitely brings you to, brings you into these locations. Absolutely.
And you can't talk about Japanese arcades without talking about what is it, Bonga? Is that how you pronounce it? The the Japanese anal probe game that was big for a while, that you saw things all the time on Twitter, on all the different gaming websites. The fascination of ramming things up virtual butts in the arcades.
Concho is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely. I mean, like my students, when I was teaching there, they would try to do that to you. It's like a weird thing that it's I don't know why that's acceptable in any way, but
They tried to shove something up your butt.
their fingers, they tried to like poke you in the butt.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh my
It's
God.
like this weird cultural thing to do to
booked
people.
to Japan. I'm on my way.
See, that is maybe why arcades still exist in Japan and they don't here because of that. Maybe
You need
something
we
to do
should,
with your fingers.
explore that a little bit further. Maybe part 2 of the of the documentary.
Yeah, I think that may be like 200 yen.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah, the Japanese
or
butt
2-finger
experience.
yen.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. So I grew up with arcades here. When I was young, one of my first experiences of video games is going to Eaton's at Garden City, of all places, with my grandma way back in the day when arcades were new, and she put quarters into Space Invaders and Asteroids, and I played standing on these huge stools so I could actually see the screen, playing the games. And arcades basically existed from then till about the time of, say, the N64 was really when the downward spiral kind of started, just because you could finally have a system in your house that was almost as good as the stuff that you're playing at the arcade, and you buy the game once for $60 instead of putting quarters in every time. Do you see a future where arcades could possibly make a comeback in our culture in North America? I know there's a place opening up, I think it's on Pembina, called the Rec Room, which is going to have foosball, it's going to have air hockey, it's going to have like old school bubble hockey, it's going to have arcade machines, it's going to have actual consoles set up, they're going to have big screens with all the hockey and football and basketball games. Do you think something like that is ever going to work here in North America, or do you think we've kind of moved on past that?
I think I hope that it can be, in some form it can exist. I don't know that it'll ever be as pure as it was. Not that it was necessarily ideal by any means. I mean, it was obviously this kind of darker, gritty kind of feel to it, back in the day. I mean, there's definitely more of like a sense of like the bad kids kind of hung out at arcades, at least when I was a kid growing up. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
But I you're seeing things in Seattle, in Chicago, in LA, in certain American cities, not necessarily as much in Canada. I feel like Vancouver's got some, a bit more of a scene. But I feel like things like bar arcades, like the mix, because the people like our age who grew up with this kind of culture, now we've got the like disposable income, and we've got, more of an interest in seeing these things kind of like come to fruition. I would love to, I would hope that we can kind of, champion the genre and make it, a little bit of a comeback at least. But I think they have to be like an amalgamation kind of venture. Maybe, if you take like the recent popularity of like board games and something place like
Sure.
Snakes and Lattes in Toronto,
Right.
it's like a board game cafe. If you took that kind of business model and maybe even combined board games and arcade games and that kind of entertainment into one location, I can see that working. But beyond that, it's tough, man. But I mean, PNP Games, look at that place. They're successful, obviously. Like 3 locations in Winnipeg now. So
Yeah.
there's a retro game, desire. Just have to find the right people.
Exactly.
Yeah, a friend of mine is involved with the Retro Gaming Convention, which is supposed to happen in 2014. They're putting together a convention that's literally just for retro gaming, and it seems like everything is full ahead for that convention. So there's definitely, like you said, like there's a big interest in going back. Lloyd and I talk on all the show that the Retron 5, like both of us can't wait to get our hands on one because
Right.
of the, basically the unlimited things you can do with it. Or just play every game from when we were kids, and that's awesome. So
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, I'm going to be at the Retro Games thing as well. So that'll be,
nice.
I'm super excited that that's happening here. We really need something like that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So in your travels in Japan, you mentioned talking with Brian Ashcraft, and one of the things that I believe is in the documentary, closer to the beginning, is talking about the 100 yen crisis when Space Invaders came out. one of the more fascinating stories that I don't know if most people know about. I'm sure Lloyd probably does. But when I watched the movie for the first time, I was blown away by that story. If you want to maybe share that one here.
Yeah, for sure. No, the title of the film originates from the idea that obviously 100 yen is how much money it costs to play a game in Japan, which is closer to $1, which is another reason why it obviously was more successful, not a quarter. But not only that, but when Space Invaders, I believe it was 1975 when it came out, or 70, around that range. When it first came out in Japan, they actually physically ran out of 100 yen coins. Like like the banks could not print coins fast enough to get them back into circulation so that people could put them back into Space Invaders machines.
That's crazy.
It was so the millions and millions of dollars were made off that video game, and just in Japan alone. Like, it was just such a revolution in that. Like, they were converting coffee houses. Like, they would tear out all the tables in the coffee shop and replace them with like cocktail cabinets. Like, just everywhere was Space Invaders. And so, I mean, started, rip off games, tons of games were released, but it didn't matter. Like, all the arcades even started replacing their other games, pinball games, whatever, with Space Invaders. Like, it was just like this crazy phenomenon. And that's what, really inspired the film as well. And just in terms of, like, people don't understand, like, this was like a huge deal at the time in Japan, especially.
I can't even remember, like, in my memory of something being so popular. Like, maybe the Wii, the launch of the Wii, but even that's not allegorical to how popular Space Invaders was. You could get one eventually, but them running out of currency is unbelievable to me, and I was blown away.
Yeah, Space Invaders was pretty popular here as well, where machines would go out of order because there were so many quarters in them and they were shorting out the circuits and things like that. But they never actually ran out of quarters in the US or Canada. So Japan has that on us for sure.
Right.
That's legendary.
It's ridiculous.
So one of the reasons, were you just going to ask a question there, Lloyd?
Go for it.
Okay, so one of the reasons we brought you on the show is because you're doing a kind of a holiday rebate on the DVD of the movie. So give you a chance to kind of plug the DVD. What kind of special features are on it, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. I just threw it up in the chat there, but there's a discount code available. It's just holiday yen when you check out via our online store there, and it's almost 50% off. So it's a pretty good time to grab a copy if you're interested. If you're local as well, like I said, we'll be at that retro gaming convention. And I actually will be in stores at P&P Games in the new year as well. So, we've got the DVD. It's just a physical copy of the film, but you also get the one thing that DVD has over the digital copies, which are available, on iTunes and Hulu and PlayStation, Xbox, etc. You get the commentary from myself and the director of photography of the film. So we just sit around for an hour and talk about the movie, and you get to hear the behind the scenes of how we met some of the people and the crazy locations we were in, stuff like that. So that's what's currently available. And we're also working on a special edition, which we hope will be released early 2014. So it's going to be good. Cool.
What's the creator of Sega Gaga? What's he like? I love that guy. I love that guy so much.
We interviewed a few interesting people. One of them is I'll jump right to Hiro Kawaguchi, who's the famous composer from Sega, who did the music for things like Outrun, Afterburner, a bunch of the big cabinet games that you kind of sat in. So the only reason we had reached out to Sega, and they weren't really, it's so hard, Japanese companies are so hard to deal with in terms of like PR and stuff. They weren't interested in the project. They were just like, no, we're good. But there was this other game guy who used to work for them. His name is Tez Okano. And he is this insane Japanese, he's just in love with arcades and arcade gaming and shooters and all kinds of stuff. And he basically found the project and championed it to Sega. And he said, like, listen, just meet me downtown and I'll get you into Sega's headquarters. And we're like, okay.
That's
so
awesome.
He brought us around, and sure enough, we got to go in, and he ushered us through the door, kind of like, yeah, don't worry about it, it's all good kind of thing. And he gave us a copy of his book, and he writes comic books as well. And on the cover of his book, he's got this older man, like in his 40s, wearing this leather jacket and jeans, and he's like this arcade like master, and he's of course dressed in the exact same attire. Like to his interview, that's what he shows up wearing, right? Like he's the greatest guy ever. Not only that,
Did he wear the luchador mask?
I wish, no. But he not only showed up in that attire, but he also is the creator of this ridiculous game called
The
Sega
greatest
Gaga.
game you've never heard of.
No, you've never heard of it. And it was like, I mean, it's for the Dreamcast. And I guess it was actually kind of popular, except for the fact that he screwed up on some of the code and it like deleted your save files or something. But it's literally about, like, it's got like all tons of Sega characters in it that kind of like are trying to save the company from bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a pretty ridiculous video game, but yeah, he's an interesting dude. So that was like one of the many strange and interesting people that we spoke to during the creation of the film.
Oh yeah, there's some characters in the movie, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Awesome.
Oh,
Well,
I think that's pretty much it.
yeah, I was going to say, I think that's going to about do it. So, Brad, thanks for coming on the show and talking about your film. And if people want to find out more, they can head on over to 100yenfilm.com. Be sure to take advantage of the holiday sale. Use the promo code HOLIDAYYEN for $9 off the DVD, which is a great deal. So, yeah, Brad, thanks for coming on the show and talking about your movie.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a great time.
Awesome. So, yeah, I think that's going to about do it for the interview. What do you say we get into the rest of the show there, Jeff?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So what we'll do is, how about we go over what we were talking about last episode or this episode in a previous life or another dimension.
Exactly. I was just going to say an alternate universe, because we split off where one of them was successful and it was the greatest show ever, and then the other one is the one we're in. We have to do it again, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's not a good. I don't. We're not going to do that again. But instead of doing another 2.5 hours talking about why we love BioShock or Campus Crush, we're going to talk about really quickly.
Damn it! Don't use my line.
What our top 10 from the last generation is. So how about we start at number 10 and we just go back and forth, and we'll go up to number 4 and we'll leave 3, 2, and 1 for after the show, because that might give away some of our picks for this episode.
It won't give away mine, but definitely, yeah, we can do that.
It's called, you're supposed to hold some of that magic for the end. You're not supposed to give away all the secrets, Jeff.
We hold the magic for so long. It's a week later.
I've apparently taught you nothing.
No, you taught me a lot. I just never paid attention.
I feel like I failed. I failed here, Jeff. All right, so my number 10. I thought you were like saying something angry, but it was just you sneezing. I had to look up at the camera to say, "What the hell?"
I did it a couple times, like where we were doing Brad's interview, and I was like, I had to mute the microphone so quick because I was just going to sneeze 5 times.
Awesome.
I'm okay though.
Cool. Okay, well let's start. My number 10, BioShock, the original.
My number 10 is a Dead Space, the original.
My number 9 was Borderlands 2.
Mine was Alan Wake.
My number 8 was Crackdown on the Xbox 360.
And when you said that, by the way, you had me rethinking my list because Crackdown wasn't on mine. And then when we were talking about it, I remember how much fun I had, and I was like, man, it should have been on there. But my number 8 was Heavy Rain.
Mm-hmm. I picked the wrong time to take a sip of my drink. My number 7 was Dead Space, the original Dead Space.
Nice. And then when you said that, I was like, maybe Dead Space should have been higher on my list. Damn it. I get very self-conscious about my lists. My number 7, I cheated, and I put Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, because I felt like that whole game series is one big story, and otherwise I would have put 7, 6, and 5 as, 3, 2, and 1. So I didn't want to do that. So my number 7 is all 3 Mass Effect games.
Nice, cheater. My number 6 is Halo 3. Just Halo 3, not Halo 3, 2, and 1. Just Halo 3.
My number 6 is Fallout 3.
My number 5 was Super Mario Galaxy 2.
And my number 5 was Red Dead Redemption.
My number 4 was Fallout 3.
And my number 4 was Minecraft.
Cool. Well, let's take a pause there and let's get into the meat of the show, and we'll go our 3, 2, 1 right at the end.
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, so 2013 was a pretty damn good year.
It was.
We saw a lot of good releases early. We saw a lot of big budget releases coming all throughout the year. New consoles came out this year. It was kind of an embarrassment of riches as far as gaming was concerned. And that's including like the next gen games that came out on the Wii U. We finally got some really good titles on the Wii U as well, because the Wii U had been out for a few months by the time that 2013 rolled around, and it's just been a really, really good year. So what we're gonna do, like what we did last year, we're gonna go down from number 10 to number 6. We're going to take a small pause to play some music, get a drink, go to the bathroom. Jeff is probably going to, I don't know, sneeze some more maybe. And then
definitely.
We'll come back and we'll do number 5 to number 1, and we will give you what our game of the year for 2013 is.
It's exciting.
All right, so let's kick this off. I'm going to start. My number 10 for this year was a game that I wasn't convinced that I'd really like. Mainly because I didn't like some of the other games that were along the same lines of this game, but I decided to give it a try, and I'm really glad I did. My number 10 is Beyond Two Souls from Quantic Dream. Came out on the PlayStation 3, of course. It was out in October, so not too long ago, and basically the game revolves around the main character who's named Jodie in the game. Her and her connection to an entity, and it's kind of an interesting thing because you don't know what this entity is. You don't know anything about the story, and you're jumping all over the time frame that this character lives in. So you start out really young, then you go really old, then you go to the middle, then you go to her in the army, and then you go back and she's a kid, and yada yada yada, and it's back and forth. And although the game was a little bit kludgy in some instances, it was a quick time event-a-thon with really horrible controls. They had it set so the quick time events, you were supposed to catch little cues in how the person moves, and that's how you would push the directions on the joystick. But then near the end of the game, without really telling you what it was doing, it introduced the fact that you're supposed to avoid attacks. So if you move forward or someone's moving towards you, you're not supposed to move towards them. You're supposed to move back, and some random kludgy things that happen with the quick time events. But all that aside, and despite that, I still found myself really enjoying this game. It told a really interesting story. You got to basically live the life of this girl that had something pretty serious happen to her when she was young, and trying to figure out how she's going to continue on with her life. The graphics, the just the animation, except for her walking down halls, for some reason they weren't able to animate the walk, but the facial animation and a lot of other things was done really well. I just thought that David Cage and his team did a really amazing job bringing this game to light, telling a story with various possible endings depending on what you do in the game, it just took me out of my life and allowed me to live in another life for a short period of time, which was really well done. So my number 10.
That's all the greatest video games do that, right?
Totally. They make you forget what you're doing and want to see what is happening with another person or set of people. So, So yeah, the other interesting thing about this game is how polarizing its reviews were, from 2 out of 10 to 9 out of 10. So I didn't know what to think when I got into this game, because I had heard all of what the review scores were like, and I don't know, despite what people were saying, I found myself really enjoying the story, as weird and convoluted, overly convoluted it was in some places. I still found myself really enjoying this title. So Beyond Two Souls is my number 10 for 2013.
Yeah, really fantastic game. A good way to kick off your list. For those who don't know, just like last year, Lloyd and I have kept our lists secret from each other, so I don't know what he's got. He doesn't know what I got. But yeah, Beyond Two Souls. I think there's definitely something that can be said about a game just trying to do something new, you know, and it's super risky, but it feels like the guys at Quantic Dream, the guys and girls at Quantic Dream just love doing that. And Beyond Two Souls is a really good example of doing something that I can't even think. No, I don't think anything's been done like that before. And their next game will also be of that same vein, you know? No one's ever done that, so we're going to do it. My number 10 is an iOS game, if you can believe that. This game, when it came out, I downloaded it, and I was blown away. First time in a long time that I've been totally blown away by an iOS game. And I think what separates this game from others is that they encourage you to use your headphones. They say, put your headphones on, it'll help you forget kind of that you're holding an iPhone. And that game is The Silent Age. And for me, this year was, I think, the year of handhelds and mobile gaming. You know, so many great, I mean, kind of the year of the 3DS when I really think about it. The amount of amazing titles that have come out for that thing this year is out of control. There have been some really great titles for the Vita, and there have been a hell of a lot of good games for iOS, and The Silent Age is one of them. In this game, you're a janitor. You're in a high-rise office building that is it's an experimental scientific laboratory kind of thing, and you fix a light bulb at the beginning of the game. It's a tap game. You know, you're moving by tapping on one edge of the screen, and he just walks around, and you have to pick up things from the environment that will help you solve puzzles later on. Like, you know, the beginning where it's just him changing a light bulb, the way they train you to do it is tap on the light bulb and then tap on the broken light bulb and you fix it. And it's this innocuous little tutorial that fits completely into the realm of what he's doing, so it doesn't feel like a tutorial, just feels like this is what he's got to do today. And then that little tutorial will train you, and you'll know forever now how to solve puzzles. And then from there, you go to your boss's office, this rich guy in a very, you know, nice desk, and he tells you, hey, you know, your superior, janitor superior, he's not going to be around anymore, so you got his job. Here's his key card. You know, it'll give you access to other more restricted areas of the laboratory. And eventually what happens is you end up going down the elevator to the laboratory, and you meet a scientist who is basically about to die. And he says, we've made a time travel machine. Please find me in the past so we can fix what's about to happen, because some bad shit's going to go down. Then you get involved with the police. They think you killed this guy, even though you didn't. And then you have this device that makes it so that you can go back and forth between time just by touching the button, as long as you're in the open in light, because it charges via sunlight. So you don't have to put garbage into it or plutonium like in Back to the Future. So it's a very interesting game, and I won't spoil anything else from you there. It's a 6-episode thing. The creator is working on some new episodes now. And it's really fantastic. It's free as well, too, which is really great. The writing is fantastic. The music just, like, totally sucks you in. It's just a really nice-looking game as well, too. And the first time that I've played an iOS game where I'm just, like, so engrossed, it feels like a console game. I wish I had an iPad to play it on a larger screen, but I was playing it on my iPhone 5. And I can't recommend it enough. And it's the first time since starting the bonus stage, like 5 years ago, that a mobile game, an iOS game, or any kind of like cell phone game has been on my game of the year list. And I think that's going to start to creep in more and more as these games come out so quickly. People are understanding how to tell stories. And just like Beyond Two Souls, The Silent Age is a game that wouldn't be that great if it didn't have such a compelling story. And I kind of wish I could erase my memory and go back and play it again, because it's really not all that great once you know what the story is. But if you haven't played it yet, go do so. It's free. Highly recommend it. The Silent Age on iOS. I don't know if it's on Android, but if you have an iPhone or an iPod, go play it, because it's great.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Moving on to my number 9. My number 9 for 2013 is a little game from Nintendo called Pikmin 3. Picked up and played this one in, I don't know, summer, or maybe it was August. I think it was just the start of August, and didn't really know what to think. I had played the original Pikmin. I enjoyed it. I felt a little rushed in some of the parts of the game. I heard that Pikmin 2 had fixed a lot of that. I never played that. But then when Pikmin 3 came out, I was like, okay, it looks good. It's on the Wii U. God knows I need something to play on my Wii U because it was sitting pretty dormant. So I picked this one up, and you know what? I really dug it. I enjoyed the experience of flinging my little Pikmin around. I enjoyed the experience of having 3 separate commanders on the ground that I could control, and also enjoyed the fact that I had my kids there, falling in love with these little tiny like flower-budded creatures as I'm going through the world. My daughter would cry whenever a bunch of them would die fighting a boss battle. It was amazing how Nintendo of all companies can make you feel empathy for the characters that are in the game without telling you a big story. They just have all the right visual and audio cues in the world where you start developing relationships with these little things, even though unlike most other games that are relying heavily on full motion video like Beyond Two Souls, where they record actors doing the actions so that when they turn it into in-game assets, it's really just a person that's acting and the character's playing out. Nintendo just has these little amazing looking little CG characters running around and being cute as all hell, and really sucking you in. Pikmin was great in this one, where they did away with the time aspect of it, where you only had X number of days to complete all of the missions. Instead, they added in something where you had to collect a number of fruit to make a certain amount of juice, because you needed 1 container of juice each day to survive. So if you ever ran out of juice, it would be game over. Near the end of the game, I think I had like 40 extra canisters of juice because I was going around near the end collecting all of the fruit that were in the game. But I don't know. I loved this game from start to finish. After I beat the game and did my review, Nintendo did a Nintendo Direct, and they added other modes to it. They added downloadable content for mission modes and various other modes in the game. So this wasn't your typical Nintendo title that they release it and then they sell it for 7 years untouched, like Mario Karts or whatever. This was a different one where they allowed you to play the game, have the experience, enjoy it, and then say, hey, well, we know you loved it so much, so here's some other experiences you could have in this world. Really amazing.
Isn't it weird when Nintendo acknowledges the internet in strange ways, and they're like, dude, DLC? You're like, what the hell?
It's almost scary.
Hell has frozen
I agree.
over.
My wife had to hold me for a little bit as I recovered from the shock. But
3 days off work, just shake. What's going on? Nintendo?
I was in the fetal position in a corner under a blanket. It was pretty serious there for a while. But yeah, Pikmin 3 was really fun. The thing that I loved about this game was having the gamepad, so I could always have this top-down map of where everything was in the game. Ironically enough, I didn't play the game with the gamepad. I played it with Wiimote and Nunchuck. So I had this screen in front of me showing me what was all happening, and then I had the Wiimote and Nunchuck as I'm playing and flinging and throwing and attacking enemies. It just really kind of showed off kind of the power of the Wii U and all the weird yet awesome experiences you can have playing games on it. So anyway, my number 9 for 2013 was Pikmin 3.
My number 9 actually is on my list because of a lot of the things that you just talked about, and it's Animal Crossing. Nintendo has a way of making you care about these characters that are silly little caricatures, basically, of people. And Animal Crossing is a very stupid game, all right? Like, if you were to, and I've said this before for a couple of games, right? Like, Minecraft is like this, Animal Crossing is definitely like this. If you said, here's my idea for a game, Jeff, right? I want you to help me bankroll it. And you gave me this idea on paper. I'd be like, you're out of your mind. This is stupid. It'll never work. Get out of my office. But when you see it in real life and you're playing it, there's something that clicks. And I think that Nintendo is one of the few developers out there that knows what that is, you know? And Animal Crossing just like hits all those buttons, the music, the way it looks, the way people are so excited to talk to you all the time. I haven't played since the summer, and I'm afraid to go back because I know these people are going to be mad at me because they haven't seen me. And that's like, I don't give a shit about what any other character in any video game would think of me, right? Like if I didn't play GTA for 5 months and then Franklin's like, "Hey, where you been?" I'd be like, "I don't give a shit." Like, but for some
I don't know.
reason,
Trevor could be pretty belittling and
Yeah,
angry, so I
he
wouldn't
might
want
actually
to
come
piss him
after me in
off.
real life.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to piss Trevor off.
But for some reason, right, like Animal Crossing, you kind of feel guilty about it. And they're just video game characters. They're not real or anything. And they're not even like, they don't even have like real life counterparts that you can kind of, you know, get emotional about. They're just these little sprites that for some reason Nintendo has like unlocked the code, and you feel something, right? And it's a really strange game, but it's very addictive, man. And one of those games, like a Simpsons Tapped Out, like a Minecraft, that will get you to play every day for months. And then you'll take a week off and you'll come back and it'll be a brand new game for some reason. And like nothing has really changed, but it feels new. And Animal Crossing, I didn't expect to like it as much as I thought I would. And I figured I'd probably get rid of it after I bought it. But it's going to stay in my collection for a long time. There's some bad things that, you know, you can't... if two separate people want to play on the cartridge, only one of them can be the mayor. You can't have two separate towns, which I think is silly. You know, because there's a SD card inside the DS, they should be able to have two separate saves, or at least give me the option of. I wish the towns were a little bit larger, but they do a good job of, like, you know, when somebody wants to move out, that usually means that they have a new person that is ready to move in. But you know, I kind of wish the town was a little bit larger. But other than that, like. And those are just like nitpicky things. Like the game is near perfect, you know, and it's just they're always doing something, you know. Like if I went back now, it'd be covered in snow and people would have snowman up and stuff like that, and that's really cool, you know. And it's just another one of those Nintendo like home runs that, you know, I don't think any other company in the world could duplicate. So Animal Crossing is my number 9, well deserving of it too.
Awesome. Cool. So let's move on. I'm going to get into my number 8. My number 8 for this year, 2013, is another Wii U title, and it is Lego City Undercover.
Oh, yeah.
I was super excited about this game when it came out, or when it was announced. I loved Lego games, but they were all pretty limited, it was pretty rote, where you would go to a hub, you would go to a mission, you do the mission, you wouldn't be able to do all the things in that mission. You'd have to come back during free play with other characters to unlock all the stuff. Lego City Undercover was the first open world Lego game that I played. I put the Wii U version, not the 3DS version, just because the 3DS version had some major issues, but it was fun as well. Don't get me wrong, it was a fun game. But Lego City Undercover on the Wii U, you basically play a new character in the Lego world, Chase McCain. It's kind of funny that they made Chase McCain a character, a thing. So if you go and you buy a Lego City Lego set, you can get the cars from the game with Chase McCain. You can get the police station with Chase McCain. So they're actually trying to turn him into an actual character, which I thought was really kind of funny. The thing about this game that really stuck with me, other than the fact, again, that I played it with my kids, you'll find that a lot of the games in this generation in this year are powerful for me, is because I played a lot of games with my kids this year. Was the fact that there was so much to do. It was truly a really open world. It was it was Grand Theft Auto without violence and swears and Trevor waking up in his underwear in various in various movies. It was
very kid friendly.
Very kid friendly. It was going from one area to another, finding clowns, stupid punny jokes, things that made me laugh out loud, like really laugh out loud, which is kind of funny since it's a kid's game, but they were actually really funny. this was on a Nintendo platform and it was an exclusive. So there was little Nintendo tricks and hidden items thrown in there. Things like you could find stars from Super Mario Sunshine. You could fish up Cheep Cheeps, other things like that. It was just a fun game from start to finish. It was a game that I wanted to play and do everything. I wanted to clear all the stuff off the map. I wanted to get 100% on my save game. It really grabbed me and hooked me for the rest of it. Unlike a lot of the other Lego games, the boss battles weren't broken like a lot of the other Lego games where you got to what was, I guess, a boss battle. It'd either be really easy or almost impossibly hard. From start to finish, the game was really easy, but not easy. Like it was easy to figure out, but not easy to always complete the task that you were given. The unlockable powers were really great. Really gave you a sense of discovery and adventure when you finally unlocked like the ability to be a fireman and use your fireman axe. And it's like, oh yeah, there's all these boarded windows that I remember seeing, and you'd have to kind of go over in your mind and figure out all the areas that you could go again. Just a really great title from start to finish. I don't know what else I can say about it other than if you have a Wii U, this is a title that you probably should be playing, especially if you have kids. So my number 8, Lego City Undercover for the Wii U.
It's also a title that, like, when you were reviewing it back in the summertime, it made me want to go pick up a Wii U. I'm like, man, this game sounds like a freaking blast. Like, why aren't I playing it? Because I don't have a Wii U, which at the time, like, was $230. Pretty friggin' cheap, right? So it really made me want to get a Wii. I still haven't got one, and I probably won't get one because only one game isn't enough to kind of sway me on a console. But yeah, man, it sounds like a freaking blast.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Number 8 on my list. MLB 13, the show. The long-awaited return of MLB talk here on the bonus. You're wearing your Jets. I'm wearing my Blue Jays sweater.
But NHL 13 isn't in my Game of the Year list. There's a difference.
Is it NHL 13 or 14?
14 or 20
14.
or 700. I don't care. None of those games have made it in my top 10 list.
That's true.
Just so you know.
But man, this game makes it on my list by default, just because of how many hours I've played it. Again, really can't talk about this game that much because I've already said everything there needs to be said about this. It improved on everything that was wrong with MLB 12, the show. It added a bunch of really cool new features. The online mode is super, super tight this time. You rarely lag out. It's happened to me twice, and I've done like 100 online matches, so that's pretty good transfer rate. And it's really stable as well too. A lot of times you'd have like weird disconnections that would happen in MLB 12, which were always happen around like the 8th inning or something, and you're like, oh man, that sucked. The Road to the Show mode was a lot improved. Season mode is really great. They made some really good improvements to pure analog pitching and hitting to make it more visual. They put more of the character's personal stride into a swing, so you can get your timing down. The practice modes are really revamped and they feel a lot better, so like new players can get into the game. And just like the amount of crazy features, like they added in this feature this year where if you're looking at a player's stats, if you scroll all the way to the right, it will open up their personal Twitter account. I don't know why you need that feature, but it's kind of cool that it's there and also a little bit weird. But they did this whole like online connected mode where if your PlayStation is hooked up to the internet, it's getting updates all the time. You can play the games of the day like you could always do. You could watch games played out with the AI, and you could take part in those games. They had the ticker underneath the screen, that could be up all the time if you wanted. You can kind of follow your games as you're playing the game of the day. And it's just, franchise mode is really great. New scouting system, new coaches. I mean, it's really all you could ask from a yearly, like an annual release, is that they improved on everything. It still looks friggin' fantastic. And the Vita version is all, because I have both. The Vita version is also really good. It's stripped down a little bit, but there's certainly more features, and the fidelity of the graphics and the sound are really great. I think my only complaint about MLB 13 is they reused far too much of the commentary, the play-by-play stuff. They used far too much of it from MLB 12, and I only got back into the series in 12, so I don't know how much of 12 is repeated from 11 and so on and so forth. But that was pretty disappointing. But a minor sore spot on an otherwise flawless sports game, and I had people come in all the time. Carly's mom came in one day and she's like, "Oh, who's playing?" And I'm like, "I am." Like, she didn't realize it was a video game. And I had other people come in and ask me the same question, like, "Oh, sweet, who's winning?" I'm like, "Well, the Blue Jays, because I'm playing," and they didn't realize that I was holding a controller and that they were watching a video game. That's how real the game looks. So MLB 13, the show, easily gets my number 8. Any other year probably would have been a lot higher, but there are 7 games that are easily way better than MLB 13, the show, but still a great game. So that's my number 8.
Awesome. I knew it had to be there.
It's got to be, right? Like, I spend far too much time playing it for it not to be on the list.
Fair enough. All right, moving on. My number 7 is Animal Crossing New Leaf. This game that came out for 3DS. Jeff already talked about it. I played about 250 hours of this game on my save game. I played a lot of Animal Crossing. So much. What
was your like day streak? Because you played every day for months, right?
I played every day for this came out in June. I probably played every day until August, September. Probably every single day, and then I missed a couple days, and then I never went back. I stopped cold turkey, I guess. But Animal Crossing New Leaf was a huge change from the earlier Animal Crossings. I loved the GameCube Animal Crossing. I played it constantly for years, every few days, every week or whatever. I loved it. I played Animal Crossing City Folk on the Wii and played about 4 hours of it and then said, yeah, this is crap. And then I wasn't convinced that an Animal Crossing would really pull me in. Then I popped in this one, Animal Crossing New Leaf, and I found a new love for the franchise. Everything that the original GameCube version did, this one did better. All the really bad stuff that City Folk did was kind of erased in this version. It was fun to explore, to talk to your all the villagers. You were the mayor this time, so it really felt like you were making a difference when you would enact the early morning act. So everybody had to get up and early. You'd have all the grumpy people in your city who I wanted to all name Jeff, but couldn't. They would complain about how early they had to get up, but then after a couple days, they're like, I didn't like this at first, but I'm getting so much done. Thanks for being a good mayor. And it's like, oh, I positively impacted this person's life. That was great.
Could you imagine if, like, in real life, like, Sam Cates was like, everybody has to wake up at 5 a.m. or you're kicked out of the city. Like,
that'd be great.
It's such a strange thing. I did the Night Owl one just because that's when I was playing and I wanted shops to be open later.
Sure. Yeah, it's I don't know. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Having a second part of the world where all the shops were, the ability to slowly unlock things and upgrades, and so you couldn't all do it too fast. That's been in all the Animal Crossings, but it really seemed like this one was really thought out well. It's like if you hit it every day for X number of months, you're going to have everything unlocked. If you skip some days, it's going to take a little bit longer. It just seemed like it flowed a little bit. But the biggest addition in this one is online play, the ability to basically open your gates, the ability to message your friends, instant messaging in the game, all the stuff that Nintendo normally does not do because they're scared of everything to do with the internet. This one did really well. And I found myself talking with friends when they're on. My buddy who doesn't live in the city anymore, who's going to be moving back, but we met online, and I made a Jets jersey for him to give to his kids. So all their family was running around in Jets jerseys in Animal Crossing. Just the ability to get online and do a lot of the stuff just totally changed it. It also came out in the Twitter world, so you could save all the designs that you made as little images and then tweet them out using the little app that Nintendo produced, where you go to this website and you could upload your photos from your SD card up to Twitter directly. Like, it was just all the stuff that I wanted to do but didn't know I wanted to do it because there was no Animal Crossing out when the stuff that I wanted to do existed, right? But it was just this nice coming together of all these various things. These nice little threads all came together and were tied into a neat little bow. It just made Animal Crossing just a fun game to play. I'm probably going to go back to it at some point. I know all my villagers are probably really angry at me. Last time I went there was like weeds everywhere, so I enacted the what is it? Clean
Beautiful town or something,
or clean town or whatever. So now at least there won't be weeds when I show up. But I'm sure everybody's moved away. I'm sure my city hall's on fire or something. There's probably some really bad stuff that's happened. But
it looks like booting up Fallout 3 or something.
yeah. I'll go into what like Big Bang or Big Boom or whatever the name of that city was in Fallout 3. I can't remember. With the big bomb in the middle. Megaton. Yeah, that was close to what I was saying. Could you tell? It was so close.
Big Bang.
Big Bang, Big Boom, whatever. Yeah, it's going to be that. There's going to be a big unexploded atom bomb sitting in the middle of my village.
Irradiated water everywhere.
Yeah, irradiated water. Yeah, glowing people running all over the place. But I'll go jump in the ocean and swim around. It'll be great. But yeah, that's my number 7, Animal Crossing New Leaf.
Man, yeah, what a good game. I mean, I was surprised how big the introduction of the QR code scanner was in the game. Like, man, did that open it up. I mean, just the ability to kind of make little creations and then share them. You know, the Reddit Animal Crossing community was huge. You know, I was downloading or scanning, I guess I should say, little patches so that I could have like a Blue Jays jersey on all the time and stuff like that. And Carly had like a dress that was what's the girl's name from BioShock Infinite?
Yeah, I can't remember.
But anyway, like she had the same dress. You know, people were just making stuff, and man, it is such a cool game. And
that's really bothering me.
Only Nintendo, really. Like, you know, only Nintendo. What the hell is her friggin' name? I want to say Belle, but that's not it.
I want to say Elizabeth, Ellie. No, Elizabeth. That's what it is.
Elizabeth. Yeah. Ellie's The Last of Us.
Yeah, that's
which
right.
I always call the girl from Beyond Two Souls.
Because
my number
Ellen
7.
Page is the actress, so there you go.
Exactly.
It all comes full circle.
Yeah, there we go, and we're back. My number 7 is Tomb Raider. Game came out the same day as MLB The Show, so it had some serious competition in my eyes for me trying to stop playing baseball to play Tomb Raider. But man, if the gameplay trailers of Tomb Raider did not sell the game completely for pretty much anyone who ever saw them. There was a lot of talk pre the launch of the game where we all thought, like, okay, is this just going to be Uncharted but a female character? Because if that is, then, I mean, it'll be fun, but it would be nice if Tomb Raider had its own identity. And holy shit, does it ever. I mean, this character, the way they revamped Lara Croft for like the 17th time in her long, illustrious career in video games, made her a real character. You know, this is before she becomes the Tomb Raider. Effectively her first real struggles in life, and the whole shipwreck at the beginning, the whole telling the story of your dad and the captain of the ship and getting your guns, and I mean, just the whole story is really quite fantastic. Of creating a character for Lara Croft, the story itself is pretty crappy. The characters you're trying to save are obnoxious, horrible people that you really couldn't care less about. But for whatever reason, they're worthy of slaughtering a bunch of much worse people for. So the game has quite a few really interesting moments that I won't spoil here, even though the game's been out for half a year, more now, 9 months, because I feel like a lot of these moments, like the plane crashing, how you get away from that, and going down the waterfall, like, when you first play them, they're like just edge of your seat intense. There are some moments in this game that are like eclipse the Uncharted craziness of jumping on the back of that big Hercules plane as it flies up, and then fighting through those guys, then falling out of the back of the plane. Like, that was pretty crazy. But there's like 2 or 3 moments in Tomb Raider that are way crazier, and just like how gritty it is, how violent it is, how good the violence feels. I kind of wish there was more of the hunting aspect, because at the beginning, like, she's cold, so you make a fire. She gets warm, now she's hungry, so she needs to eat, so you kill a deer. And then that's the last time you ever do any of that stuff. And that kind of sucked. I wish there was a little more survival in it, or like maybe a survival mode where you have to eat, because there's animals everywhere. So I always thought that was a little strange. But, minor gripes, because Tomb Raider not only looked great, was acted really great. The person they got to, I can't remember her name, which sucks because she definitely deserves the credit, to do Lara Croft's voice and to do the body modeling and the motion capture, like really fantastic actress, pulling it together for this character. And man, does she go through some shit. I mean, I don't think there is a time in this game where Laura ever lands on her feet. Like, she always lands like smacking right on her knees, or like right on her face, or falls on her back, or like on her head. Like, it's pretty vicious how hurt she gets, and she just keeps getting up, I mean, like right at the beginning, when you burn yourself out of that upside down rope thing that you're in, she, like, that piece of rebar stabs through her side, and then they make you as the player like pull it out in a quick time event. You're like, oh shit, this is rough. But yeah, it just feels really good. The ending is a bit strange. I'm not really all that adverse to the supernatural aspect of Tomb Raider. I think it's fine. But I know that a lot of people had problems with it because they felt it got too hokey. I didn't feel like it got that hokey. When you kind of like look at where the game was going, it's definitely part of the natural progression of how that story was supposed to evolve. And it was pretty interesting, kind of had the same mystique about the story that the original Uncharted did, where you're not quite sure if this is supposed to be taken like hard-nosed seriously, or if it's supposed to be more of an Indiana Jones thing where it's like completely silly most of the time. And the game just had really tight controls, jumping and swinging, climbing, everything felt really good. A death was because you screwed up, not because the game ripped you off. It was your own fault. And yeah, really the multiplayer sucked, but that's fine. Buy this game and play it for the single player. That's what really needs to be experienced here. The multiplayer is shit, but that's okay. It's kind of throwaway anyway. But yeah, Tomb Raider number 7 for sure. Was really surprised and pleasantly surprised that this game was that good.
Cool. My number 6 is actually Tomb Raider as well. So I'm just going to pile right on to what you said, Jeff.
Go for it.
I was a huge fan of Tomb Raider from day one. I played the original. I had a website called the Cistern, which was kind of a walkthrough of the first Tomb Raider and into Tomb Raider 2. My website was in like GamePro and a whole bunch of different PC Gamer magazines, when they had like when websites were new, and they would actually list them in magazines until people would get their website listed and then change into some sort of porn site with ads and stuff. Back in the early days, the naivety of the early internet, that was really cool. And I loved Tomb Raider. And then I didn't like so much when things got a little bit further, Tomb Raider 3 and some of the other ones. It was just like, oh, okay, this kind of lost its magic. So I was really eager to see what this reboot would do. I really like the character of Lara Croft, not the like crazy huge chested bimbo rich super powered mystical one like in the movies. I kind of like the idea of someone that inherited a lot of money, basically had issues with all of her parents dying, and having to go out and sort of find herself through what her parents did, and that was exploring and researching and stuff like that. I kind of like that whole like Indiana Jones kind of feel, but a female version of it. So I was really kind of eager to see what this Tomb Raider would be, and it was everything I hoped it would be. The story was great. Like you said, there was some real visceral scenes where she would hit the ground and you could hear and feel like bones crack in her chest as she lands on her side. And I'm just like, oh God.
And they always made the controller vibrate at those moments too, make you feel it more.
It was like, how much more crap can they put her through? Like, it was just
apparently a lot.
It was bad. And you would miss a quick time event, and you'd see these like just horrible death animations. And it's like, okay, you could have left that out of the game, but at the end of the day, it was a really great story. Well, it was a good story that really fell apart at the end. But it was really kind of interesting to see how her character developed, how she, or how they explain how she hardened up, how she became such a kick-ass character who would basically destroy everybody. There's been a lot of bad things said about the game, or a lot of faults pointed out where she was so hurt killing the first deer that she killed, and it was just such a huge thing for her. And then the first time that she shoots someone that is trying to attack her through an assault, and she feels all bad about it, and then you proceed to kill 1,000 people through the rest of the game, you have to kind of take a step back and say, yeah, it is a video game. If that was the only action in the game, it would be really boring, and there'd be a lot more people complaining about it than the people are saying, oh, it was a stupid story because of this, online on all the different forums, right?
That ludonarrative dissonance thing has been thrown around a lot this year, like a lot. It's been like every couple of months, they're like, oh, Bioshock, ludonarrative dissonance, Tomb Raider, same thing. It's like, it's a video game.
It's
Can
not
we calm down a bit?
It's not a movie that is over in 90 minutes. It is. It's an experience that you want to last more than 90 minutes, or you'll bitch about how short it is. Even the story was good, but it only lasts 90 minutes for $60. That's my internet forum voice, by the way.
It's not bad.
It could go a little. I could go a little bit more comic guy from The Simpsons as well, but I'll turn that down. But yeah, I mean the game, it was great. It told a story. It rebooted a franchise. I am like honestly eager to play the next installment of Tomb Raider. When I get a PS4, I might buy a PS4 version of Tomb Raider if I can pick it up on sale or whatever, because they've taken it, they've updated the graphics. That'll probably be about time when I wouldn't mind playing through the game again. So yeah, I mean, my number 6, Tomb Raider, really great title. If you haven't played it yet, it's one of the good ones that came out this year.
Definitely. I think maybe one of my only other little small problems with it was the tombs are pretty boring. And there are a lot of them out there, but they're like usually one little kind of physicsy based puzzle, and then you just get like a treasure chest, and you're like, oh my god, what's in it? Oh, just some random shit. Like like you actually get junk, which is like a form of kind of like currency to craft shit, and then some gold, and you're like, well,
and
that was kind of crappy.
A piece to a puzzle of some sort, and
or maybe like something like that, little collectible, but again, minor thing. My number 6, a game you mentioned earlier, Beyond Two Souls. Not to re-say what you said, really loved the game. I actually liked the combat where you had to kind of figure out via the body language and movement of not Ellie, like Jodie, how to kind of move the control stick.
Sure. So did I, except when they reversed it randomly without telling you that they were doing it.
Yeah, like how am I supposed to know, like, okay, her midsection's going back, but she's leaning forward. Does that mean I push like, I don't get that.
That's where it fell apart. At the start of the game, it was like, holy crap, you feel like a badass. You're beating all these people up in basic training. And then near the end, it's like, okay, my arm is moving forward, so obviously that means that I should push forward, and you push forward and you die because you get stabbed in the throat. It's like, okay, so I had to push back? Really?
Exactly. There was some parts, and like especially later in the game, like you're saying, they also picked up the speed of really how much time you had in between seeing the move and then executing it. Like you didn't have you got less and less each time to make it more difficult. And it got a little bit tough. I still made more than 80% of the right choices, which was interesting because I thought I failed a lot, especially when you're in the desert section of the game. You're fighting that big thing at the end, and I'm like, oh man, I'm like getting hit every single time here. Like, what's going on? I must be really. But then the trophy popped up. I'm like, you did it. I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, the story definitely carried that game. Something I hadn't, seen before in a video game. Again, big fan of. One of my top 10 games of the generation was Heavy Rain, done by the same studio at Quantic Dream. Love those guys. I think they do really great work. Really, maybe not revolutionary work, but certainly they're trying to make it revolutionary. It doesn't always hit. The controls in Heavy Rain are absolute garbage when you're trying to move around, but the story is really what drives you, right? Like sometimes the controls get so bad, but you want to keep playing because you're interested. And I think that's more powerful than just having like a big action set piece, like a Tomb Raider had. I'm really interested in progressing because I care about these characters, and Jodie was very interesting. Great acting from Ellen Page, great acting from Willem Dafoe and the rest of the cast. This game, when you pick it up and you look at the cover, it's not a video game box. It's a movie. This is a DVD that you're playing, right? And the game art looks like a movie poster. It says Ellen Page, Willem Dafoe, top billing. This is a poster that you would see when you go into a theater. And when you keep that in mind when you play it, then you don't really have this expectation of, oh, this is a shitty game because I'm not really playing that much. You're like, no, this is a really great movie that I get to interact with on a level that you can't in other movies. And that's how I thought about it. And it certainly made it a lot more enjoyable. There's some really standout sections of this game. The desert section in I think it's called Navajo is the section of the game where you come off the highway and you go and you're in a little sheep farm.
Yep.
Awesome part of the game. The whole Middle East section of the game is pretty interesting as well too, and just kind of how the whole thing progresses and then how it ends is really exciting. And then there's some really interesting parts of the game where it's just kind of innocuous shit that would be a cutscene in another game, but it's like 10 or 12 minutes of gameplay where you're like, okay, she's got a guy coming over for a date. You got to make some food. You got to have a shower. You got to clean your shit, your dirty place up. That was really interesting. I kind of like doing that because it's something you don't ever get to do in a video game unless you're playing The Sims. And even then, that's like a pulled back version. You're playing a God game, kind of, right? And Beyond Two Souls is just, it has some problems in the story for sure. They certainly tried to do, I think, maybe too big of a, here's the ending. The ending is very interesting, I think, but it's bizarrely written. It almost doesn't make sense. It almost falls apart in that last sequence. But if you kind of give your brain to it and you just go with it, it certainly is a rewarding experience and one of the best of the year. I was very excited to play this game and really, really enjoyed it. So Beyond Two Souls is my number 6 game of the year.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's going to about do it for this section. Let's take a small break. Let's do a random chip tune, and then we'll get back with our 5 to 1. So we'll be back in a few minutes. We'll hit the chiptune randomizer and hopefully don't hit something that stinks. So here we go. That's a short one. We'll do this one. This will be good. We'll be back in a couple minutes, everybody. Alrighty. Okay, so we're back. That was a song called Saul by Darius Carlin. Yeah.
Man, these chiptunes sometimes have like really tough pronunciations for their names, and then even tougher for the people who write them because they're from all over the world.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So that was a nice little song.
Yeah, I like
during
that.
the break, I ran upstairs to get my Vita, which I have right now because Sony just put a flash sale online while we were recording the show, and I just picked up Tearaway for half price, which is a
Nice.
game that is in a lot of people's top 10. So I thought it was fitting that I would be downloading it during this show.
Yeah, read it on a lot of lists too.
It's a game I wanted to play, but for $18, how could I go wrong? So
I just downloaded.
or 17 or whatever it was.
The hell did I just download? It's a free game now on PS Plus for
Dyad?
the Vita. No, god damn
Oh,
it!
Dyad is
It's
PS3.
like an RPG or something. God, I'm now completely blanking out.
That's fine.
Must not be all that exciting for me.
Not important.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Cool. So I guess I started. So you want to start with your number 5?
Sure. My number 5, which actually, like this top 5, man, was really tough. I put a lot of, like, I knew what my number 1 was going to be because it was my number 1 game of the generation. But 5 through 2 was really tough. A lot of jumbling up. And when I finally put it to paper today, and I was like, this is what I'm going with. Pretty happy with it, but like now I'm looking at it, I'm like, this game deserves to be higher. But NBA 2K14, game I had for a week from PNP for a review, and man, is this game just awesome. It's got some problems. Let's get those out of the way. It focuses way too much on LeBron James, and it's very self-serving in that, but that's okay if you really like him as a player. And the VC is a little bit of a Forza 5 situation where the game is a little ratcheted up in difficulty a little bit so that it makes it harder to progress your stats. But if you want to, you can go pay real money to get VC and then increase your stats. However, I feel like with this game and with Forza, the gameplay is so fun that grind is okay for me. And I played a lot of this game in that week, and it's so good. The players look so real. They control really fantastic. There's a couple of little glitches here or there where, like, you'll throw a player a pass, and as he's accepting the pass, he'll take like 5 steps out of bounds. You're like, you asshole! Like, why the hell did you do that? And like I said, when I was doing the review way back in, I think, October, one of the problems I had was because I'm not very good at this game. When I got drafted in the My Career mode, I had to wait for like 20 minutes to be drafted as the game slowly went down the list of the draft picks, and you couldn't skip it, and that was very annoying. Thank God I wasn't drafted last. I think I was drafted like 16th or something, but it was like, oh, this is so boring. Once you get into the game, though, the best basketball game I've ever played in my entire life. And not that I've played every basketball game, but of the ones that I've played, the best. And I could see this being maybe the best sports game ever made. It's a better sports game than MLB 13 The Show. There is a care of attention to detail here for basketball, a love of basketball that other studios just, I don't think they get. Obviously, the EA debacle for NBA Live 14, where they came out and apologized for the game literally being utter shit. It looks like a game that was like a launch title, and NBA 2K14 looks like a game that's 5 years ahead of its time. I've never seen more sweat analysis of a sports game on YouTube than I have with NBA 2K14. They're like, look at how real the sweat looks. And it does look really real. I mean, it's crazy. And when you have like a My Career thing going, you get you have an agent who will go out and try to get you business contracts. He can get you signed up with Nike or with Air Jordan, right? He can get you signed up with an energy drink company, and you get to do post-game interviews and all this shit that I wish was in a baseball game that isn't. There's so much non-basketball in this basketball game. Oh, I'm trying not to sneeze here. And it makes the game so much more of an experience. You feel like you're this character, and it's really fantastic. I mean, the play-by-play commentary is unbelievable. I mean, the quickness that these commentators have to talk about what you're doing as you're doing it is unlike anything I've ever seen. You know, you're dribbling the ball down the court, and then you get a fast break, and they will say he's got a fast break, and then as you're dunking, like, they're talking about the dunk and what kind of a dunk it was, and if it was great, you know, and then they'll talk about things that are like game specific, you know, like if you played this team before and they whooped you, they'll talk about that loss, you know, and say, well, the last game they were really, you know, crushed by this team, and everything came down to LeBron James in the fourth quarter going on like a 20-0 run, and like it feels like you're watching TV. And I think that's maybe the highest compliment I can give this game, is it feels like I'm just sitting down watching ESPN, watching a basketball game, because that's how good everything feels, and it's really, really great. Love this game. Kind of want it to be higher, but seriously, well deserved to be on this list at number 5. NBA 2K14. Go out and play it if you love basketball. This is the only game you should be playing because it's fantastic.
Awesome. Cool. Moving on. My number 5 is a game we've kind of already talked about a little bit, but not really, is BioShock Infinite. Really love this game. I'm kind of surprised that it's not a little bit higher on my list. After I played it, it's like, this is the biggest mind frack that I've ever played in my entire life. I can't believe it. I can't think straight. I went on to websites where people were talking about it, just to, not to make sense of it, but just because I wanted to see what other people were saying about it. But that's kind of settled down a little bit in my mind. It's still a really amazing game. Irrational put out just an amazing title. BioShock Infinite, you play as Booker DeWitt, and you have a partner that follows you along and helps you out called Elizabeth, who's the person that you're first sent to find, and then later you try to save. And that was really weird. My camera just went crazy there. Did you see that?
I'm not watching the stream.
It just went like completely white and then back to normal. So I don't know what that was all about.
Weird.
But yeah, and you're in this world where there's this floating continent called Columbia, and you basically travel to Columbia through incredibly interesting methods. You get there, you have to hunt down Elizabeth, find out that you don't really want to hurt her. You want to save her. You get attacked by a big bird. All this other crap happens. And all throughout, you're basically traveling through time, essentially, and going through different things. Without spoiling any of the story too much, it just takes you on a wild ride from one point of the world to another, from one extreme to the other. It was just an amazing story, and how they kind of tied everything up with like the different portals that Elizabeth's making. As you saw in some of the trailers, if you watched it, she basically pulls in various aspects of different worlds into the current world to help you do battle in the world. From that to other things, it was just amazing how they tied up the story. Obviously, there was fault to be found if you went and looked for it. But if you were just the type of person that likes to disconnect your brain and enjoy a story, not the people that bitch about how a summer blockbuster movie, this one did not make sense because of this, and this. If you're one of the people that could just kind of take your brain out, put it in a jar beside you, and just enjoy the ride. The story and the action of BioShock Infinite was
bonus stage official review. BioShock Infinite, bring a jar.
Bring a jar for your brain. Yeah. It's an amazing title. The battle, the battling, the fighting, the gunplay action in this game, a little bit different than any other BioShock. Instead of just getting a superpower, whatever it's called in the version of BioShock you're playing, and firing it at enemies and then shooting them with various weapons, you're now taking the battle vertical as well. You have this really great arm hook, sky hook, that you could jump onto different rails and swing around the area. You can do battle from the rails. You can make it go faster, go slower, jump off, do decapitations with your skyhook. And then there's also weapons. And then there's your vigors in the game where you can have different powers and do that stuff that we have all grown to love about BioShock, where you can make different things appear and light people on fire and do all sorts of other fun combat-y kind of things. But yeah, I mean, besides the story, besides the action, I was in love with the story of, or not even the story, but the location of Columbia. The look of it, just the look and feel of everything around. It was different than the first BioShock, where you're underwater and you're in tight chambers and there's broken glass and everything's kind of really been just destroyed, to this like beautiful, vibrant world where people are living, and you can really kind of see a lot of the art style that went into this game. And that's probably why I was so disappointed when the DLC was announced and it was like, well, no, you're not in Columbia anymore. You're going back underwater. And I was like, oh, really? I want to really explore more of Columbia and what it has to bring. Maybe in the future, maybe there will be some DLC that will take place in Columbia. But yeah, I don't know. The characters, the actors that they had to play Booker DeWitt and Elizabeth were amazing. Bang on, spot on. There's this one part in the game where you find a guitar, and if you actually go up and use the guitar, it just breaks into like a 3-4 minute section where Booker just starts playing a song and Elizabeth singing, and it's just like, what is this? And then actually, if you beat the game and watch post credits, they actually show where they kind of filmed that scene, and it's like, holy crap, these people have really good chemistry together. Like they're acting well together, and it comes across fully in everything that's happening in the game. The mind tricks that they play, the confusing quantum theory and all this other stuff that they bring into it on top of that was just gravy. I love those stories. I love time travel. I love all that type of like really weird quantum mechanic type stories that some of these things have. BioShock Infinite did it perfectly. The story was great. The action was great. It was just a really great game. I think the only problem with BioShock Infinite is the fact that I played it so early in the year that some other games came out and maybe kind of tarnished its memory a little bit more than maybe if it came out in September, October, November, for example. But it took a while for my brain to recover from kind of the story reveal and how everything happened in this game. But yeah, BioShock Infinite, an amazing game, a game that I'm going to want to go back through and replay now that it's kind of settled in my brain a little bit. The amazing action. It sounds like things are falling down your stairs.
No, I'm moving around in this chair trying to get comfortable, and it's like creaking a little bit.
You were off camera, so I couldn't see what you're doing. But yeah, BioShock Infinite, really great game, and is my number 5 for 2013.
Yeah, great game. Like you know, when I think you finished it before me, because you pretty much powered through it. You couldn't stop playing it. And you sent me a text message. You're like, have you beaten it yet? I'm like, no, I'm really close. And you're like, oh my God.
Text me when you're done.
Yeah, and I did, and I was like, holy shit! Like, did that really happen? Like, and I feel like my love for the game has waned quite a bit. I tried to play it again on the 360. Tom lent it to me. I just wanted to go through and get some achievements, but when I played it the second time, it wasn't as good. In fact, it was actually quite a bit worse, because I knew where all the secrets had been. Like we did a lot of talking about it. I did a spoiler cast on another podcast with some guys, really just like diving in deep, and I listened to a lot of interviews and stuff. And just got into that game, I think, maybe more deeply than I should have, because when I went back and played it again a second time, I was like, this isn't really all that great. I'm still shooting people, and that sense of the unknown of what's coming next isn't there to drive me. But yeah, it totally deserves to be on a Game of the Year list, and certainly as high as number 1, even if that's what you're going for, because of, even when you strip away all of the the story and just how really complexly written this game is, from the very opening scene. it just plays so friggin' well. You know, I mean, the controls are super tight and everything works well. You know, accessing inventory is super quick, and using figures in combination with each other and weapons is just, and the skyhook, I mean, it really just works so well. So, like, in terms of just a technical achievement, it's fantastic and should be on a list. But yeah, really like that game as well, too. Not on my list, though. One of the ones left off. My number 4 is Metro Last Light. I was super pumped to pick this game up, and couldn't really explain how much I liked it when I was doing the review. In fact, I think I kind of did it a disservice when I think I focused too much on what was wrong with the game, which there is some things wrong with the game, but just how well it, like BioShock Infinite, puts you into a new world you've never been in before. And not only puts you into a new world, but makes you, like, convinces you that you're there, and that you're the character you're playing. Man, is it good. I mean, from the opening scenes where, you know, you're in, you know, bombed out sewers and stuff like that, and you know, you are given the kind of brief synopsis of what happened in the previous game, and you know, picking up where your character left off, and it opens so strong. It stays strong throughout. There's a very good protagonist here, you know, a very interesting villain, and there's some really interesting kind of creatures. These, like, radiation-filled monsters that kind of roam the wasteland and stalk and try to kill you at every turn. The game is pretty scary as well, too. I mean, there are a lot of dark tunnels to go through. A lot of it's, you know, taking place in sewers. But in terms of that kind of, like, environment, putting you there, convincing you that you're there, there's a sequence of the game fairly early on where you go to a town, and your buddy is taking you through, and he's like, okay, here's your gun shop, here's whatever. There is a little kind of vaudeville theater act going on. And he says, you know, if you want, you can just sit down and watch it. So I did. And the thing goes on for, like, I don't know, 10 or 12 minutes or something like that. You actually get an achievement for sitting there throughout the entire thing. But there's, like, this great, like, burlesque dance act. There's, like, a guy who trains one of the little kind of enemy things, and he's, like, getting him to jump through hoops. And then the I think it looks like a mole rat from Fallout. But then he, like, turns on him and like, you know, starts to attack him, but he's got it on a chain and everything's okay. And then there's a guy who comes out and does, like, songs with a guitar, and it's like, man, this is so easy to just walk past. But here I am sitting down and enjoying the whole thing, because that's how the world is built. You know, you can sit there and listen to people's conversations for 5 or 10 minutes and they just keep talking. And all of this stuff can be completely walked past. And I think that's one of the things that, like, this game and BioShock Infinite share in common with, there's so much of BioShock Infinite that you could just never experience, you know, and just walk right past it. You know, the guitar thing for me, I never, I saw the guitar there, but I never went up to it or anything like that. So there's so much of that game in Metro that you could just not experience, which makes, you know, repeated plays, you know, more enjoyable. The game is unfortunately very linear, and it has some very weird moments. Like the strip club moment I didn't really care for. I felt like it was a little bit out of place, but it still put you in this world that was very interesting, and you cared for the characters that you were playing as. You know, there's a really tough section of the game where there's this sickness that's going through one of the they're kind of like vaults, right? But they're just sections of the metro that are closed off with big doors, and people are living in there. And there's, like, this virus that's, like, just tearing through and killing pretty much everybody. And it's the quarantine part of the game, and it's pretty tough. I mean, you're watching, like, kids talk to their dad about why their mom isn't there anymore, and it's like, this is really rough. This is good writing. It makes you kind of depressed, and then you're all the more ready and willing to go out and fight people who are encroaching on your space and trying to take away, you know, the last vestiges of humanity. So Metro Last Light's a super depressing game, but man, is it worth playing, and the number 4 game on my list for this year.
Cool. Played that as well. I never beat it because I got a bug where I was stuck in the environment and I couldn't get away.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was too bad.
Yeah, it was really kind of sad. I didn't want to try it again just in case something like that else happened. I'll have to pick
Well,
it up.
and your checkpoint was like if you reloaded a previous save, you were losing like 2 hours or something, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it didn't save properly as well too. Yeah, that sucks.
It did save, except it saved right in the area where I was stuck. So I mean,
Of course.
that was awesome. That was really good. All right, moving on. Let's get to my number 4. My number 4 for 2013 is a game that came out recently, and it's Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U. I absolutely adored this game from the moment I stuck it in my Wii U. Saw the cat suit Mario with my kids, and just had an awe moment. And from the start to the finish, this was distilled Nintendo joy. This is a game that if you've never played Mario before, you can play it. If you've played all the Marios before, you'll love it. It pretty much takes every good part of every Mario game and kind of mashes it into one little bit of perfection. I was telling people that it's the best Mario game I've played in years. Mario Galaxy 2 was probably the only one that was close to it in how good it was. It was just a fun experience. This one takes the kind of the formula that's been laid out recently and kind of changes it a little bit. So you have this 3D overworld that you can kind of walk around and approach the different worlds in any order that you want. Each of the levels themselves it's almost like their own contained individual game. There's I don't think there's one world, except for maybe a couple, that are really similar to any other ones. There's a world where you're playing Mario Kart, sliding on your butt down a level and with the Mario Kart music playing. There's
Nice.
a world where you're going completely vertical, where you're climbing up buildings with the cat suit. There's another world where it's almost always you are riding through the really cool see-through pipes that they have in the game. It basically just takes what everybody loves about Mario and just distills it into like little bits of joy that you can play through the game. Even better is this game is playable between 1 and 4 players co-op, and the game is playable with 1 player, 2, 3, 4. Like having more people doesn't make it worse. Playing through solo doesn't make it boring. It's pretty much perfectly balanced, which I found pretty surprising. I guess the only thing that isn't balanced is there's certain levels that are only playable single player. You can play them when you're playing multiplayer, but only one person gets to control them. And you get to play as a Toad who's a prospector, and he can't jump, and you basically have to rotate the level around 3D to make him find all the different stars in the level. What else? This game has a pile of different characters. It has Mario, Luigi, of course. It has Peach and Toad. There's an unlockable character from Super Mario Galaxy, Rosalina. So this game has the female characters that my daughter loves. It has the Mario characters that my son loves. I love it. It's a perfect game for family. It's a perfect game for solo. It doesn't really matter how old you are. This is just an example of why Nintendo does things right. They wait on a game until it's perfect. And you can pretty much go to any part of the level and it's like, oh, there's this far out area. I bet you there's something here if I jump here. And there is, because if you thought it, someone at Nintendo has thought it as well. It's an amazing game from start to finish. If you have a Wii U, you need to own this game. Some people are asking me, well, shouldn't I get like New Super Mario U? And I'm like, no. You should not get New Super Mario U. You should be getting Super Mario 3D World. And then if you can't get enough Mario, then go pick up New Super Mario U or New Super Luigi U. Super Mario 3D World is by far the better Mario game that's come out in this generation so far on the Wii U. It is just perfect. Miiverse integration, so you can post little things on each level that you beat. You unlock stamps, so there's a collection aspect thrown into the game as well. It's a fun title. It's one that I'm going to be having in my Wii U probably for ever. It's not a game that I'll ever get rid of. Not that I get rid of many games. I tend to keep most of my stuff, but this is one that I play all the time still with my kids. They request it all the time between this and Skylanders and some other ones. It's as close to a perfect game that I've played so far on the Wii U, and it is my number 4 game for 2013. So Super Mario 3D World, my number 4.
Another game that makes me want to get a Wii U because man, if this isn't like the most colorful game ever made. I've been watching a lot of Let's Plays on YouTube.
It's distilled joy. It's like they took
Yeah.
all the joy from any Nintendo game and put it into a press and squoze it down to its essence, and then
Yeah.
distilled it to one single drop of pure joy. Like when I was playing this game, I had a crazy smile from ear to ear the whole time I was playing through it. There's so many times when I was just like smiling goofy, and I had to pause the game and say, if anybody came downstairs right now, or if my kids turned around and looked at me, I would just look like such a fool. Like it was just such an amazing game. Kudos to Nintendo for putting something like this out.
Only Nintendo, right? Just another
Definitely.
example.
Definitely.
My number 3 game of the year is Battlefield 4, and I think that this is probably the best shooter of maybe the generation, easily the best shooter of the year, but maybe the best shooter of the generation in terms of first-person shooters. Holy shit, is this game great. 2 years removed from Battlefield 3, which was a very good game I still have on my shelf behind me. Oh, my camera cut out. We're still good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, all right. Jesus, you didn't respond there for a
No,
few
I was-
seconds. I'm like, oh,
My mic is muted. Actually, there's
Gotcha.
something that's popped up in front of you, so I'm going to have to get that out.
okay. So yeah, like 2 years, which is the amount of time it takes for a Call of Duty to be made, or maybe a little bit longer by a few months. But 2 years since Battlefield 3 to Battlefield 4, and the amount of improvements to this game are unbelievable. I mean, you've got a much deeper, more interesting story, right? A story that for better or for worse, tries to get you involved in the characters. It fails. It's not a very good story. But again, this isn't a game where you play it for the story anyway. But they made improvements to the story to make it more interesting, more emotional, right? Like you really want these guys to succeed. But, that aside, the improvements to the graphics, I mean, God damn it. I mean, these are just the most amazing graphics I've seen in a very long time. Just absolutely, even on the 360 where it looks the worst, it still looks really great. And then you get into like just the gameplay mechanics itself, where you now have I think tightened up. The controls have been tightened up a lot. They feel really responsive, really great, as good as Call of Duty's controls feel. The transitioning between prone and standing, I think, has never felt better. Just traversing over these really grand battlefields, because the levels are really huge, feels really good. Getting in and out of vehicles feels good. You can kind of just jump over and swing your legs and over like a fence, or slide over, a barrier. All that stuff feels really good. And then, just the addition of Levolution, which is this thing that just changes the battlefield through some very aggressive and violent changes, like Siege of Shanghai, where the skyscraper in the middle collapses, which is always a blast when it happens. The mission where the dam breaks, and then the flood zone where the levees break and it just floods the level, and now all the stuff that you could get to on foot, now you have to take a boat to get to. There's I think it's Firestorm. I can't remember, but it's this one in a city, and you can blow up these gas mains that are under the under the street, and now the street has these trenches in it that you can go and have cover with, and it blows up the bridge where the B flag is. So awesome. It's had a lot of problems. The game has been marred with problems since launch. In fact, there's a class action lawsuit now in the works for EA because of false advertising, because this game has been so poorly received in terms of the bugs. I doubt that'll go through, but we'll see. But yeah, it's been really marred by a lot of graphical glitches and a lot of just glitches in general. But if you're judging it solely based on what it's improved on, and just kind of trying to focus less on the glitches, man, this game is just in another category. It plays so well. You're constantly unlocking stuff for your kit. All the weapons feel really good. It's just like there's commercials all over the place online this only in Battlefield stuff, right? Where the guy's like, oh, we were up on the top of the skyscraper, and then a guy drove an ATV on, and we, shot him, and I shot the driver, but he was on the back, and then they drove out the window, and then he parachuted off, and then I was shooting it. Like, that all sounds like it's kind of this marketing BS, but it's literally what you can do. You're on top of the skyscraper in Siege of Shanghai, and you're defending the flag, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, the skyscraper is collapsing. So you jump off of a collapsing skyscraper, and you're shooting guys below you as you free fall to another building. I mean, it's completely out of control, and it's totally insane, and it's fantastic in every way. And I can't say enough about it. It really is one of the best shooters I've ever played in my life. Phenomenal game, such an improvement. And I really wish it got more traction. Call of Duty still sold a lot, but not nearly as much as they used to sell. Battlefield is so good. Like, it's just so damn good, and easily my number 3 of the year. Battlefield 4, fantastic game.
Cool. I was wondering what you're going to say, if you're going to talk about all the problems that it was having, because I know that's all everybody's talking about online.
Yeah, a lot of problems with the premium servers, like the ones that people are paying for Battlefield Premium, and all that stuff does really take into consideration. But from my experiences on the Xbox 360, quite a bit more stable on the 360. And because it's been scaled down quite a bit to just run on the platform. But yeah, it's unfortunate that the PC players have been getting kind of the shaft. They've only got like 2 or 3 updates since the game has come out, and the game is still broken as hell. But I think there's like a big 1 gigabyte update that just came out a couple days ago, so hopefully those problems are starting to be fixed. But for me, I really, really enjoy this game, and I think once it gets fixed, people will go back on the side of, yeah, it's fantastic and it's Battlefield and it's great. But they just need to fix those problems first.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, let's move on. My number 3 for 2013 is a little game that you might have heard of. Might have set some records. Grand Theft Auto 5.
Nice. My number 2, so we'll talk about it together.
Okay, cool. It's probably one of my favorite games to come out this year, even though it didn't get number 1. Just because in the amount of dumb, stupid fun that I had with this title. Sitting there playing, having Trevor say just nasty, terrible, horrible things. Well, other people are looking at him like, okay, this guy's going to go crazy and eat my face. Then getting in a car and driving and having really awesome car controls, and then getting to another area of the world, and getting in a helicopter and flying and realizing the helicopter controls are terrible but still fun, and then landing the helicopter, getting in a jet, and then jetting across the whole continent, getting to another area, parachuting out. It's just like, holy crap, from start to finish, this game is a lot of fun. Yeah.
And you can do that all in like 10 minutes, which is also great, right? So you're like, okay, what next? What can I do now?
Totally. Yeah, it's an unbelievable experience. The one thing that is interesting about this game, I pre-ordered and did the midnight launch for GTA 4. I was a huge GTA fan, obviously, which is why I would do a midnight launch. And I found after a while, like, Nico was kind of grating on me. I was not really digging it so much anymore. The mission checkpoints were horrible. So you would play a mission for 10, 15 minutes and then die, and then have to restart right at the start. But not only did you just get the chance to restart right at the start, you had to drive from your original location to take this thing to then go. It was just, it was a lot of just hassle, and I never ended up beating the game because I just got so tired of that.
Come back when it's dark to do this mission. You're like, well, shit, that's like 6 hours from now.
Totally. GTA 5 changed all that, because if you ever had an issue with one of your missions, you would just hot swap to one of your other characters. I mean, you'd go to Michael, or you'd go to Trevor, and you would just take on their role and then do something with them. I thought it was a really interesting way to tell a larger story, but it was also a really smart way to kind of divvy up kind of all the experiences that you'd have, so you could take it from different angles, and you could also use it as a way to teleport. So you would be basically doing something with Trevor, and you would just kind of go off into the boonies somewhere, and then you'd have another mission somewhere, and it's like, oh crap, well, I don't know how long it would take me to get there, but I know Franklin's pad is right by where this area is where I have to go next. So you switch over to Franklin, and it's like, yep, sure enough, you appeared right in his house, and you get out, you get in your car, and you could go do that optional quest and continue on with the game. It was just a really, really smart way to kind of break up all of the monotony that previous GTAs would have, because you might not always like the story. In this game, it doesn't really matter, because then you just get out of it, jump, do something else, or go play some tennis or play some golf or play darts,
which are both so much fun.
Yeah, like it's filled with little experiences like that. So I don't know, what did you think of GTA, Jeff?
Well, yeah, like you bring up a good point with the characters, right? And I actually didn't think that it would be that big of a game changer. But like, okay, so 3 characters, I'll probably find my favorite and play the most of the game with them. But like, I look at my time that I've played now, which, by the way, I'm about 160 hours into GTA, 90 of which are online, and the rest are in the story. I did 100% completion, and I'm still screwing around in the campaign. And all of my characters are separated by maybe half hour, 40 minutes. You know, like, so, for some reason, like, I played them all evenly, and it's such a game changer to, oh man, I can't do this mission now. Although they fixed that wait around thing. Well, they'll skip forward time anyway just to do it, because they don't, like, well, okay, well, you know, this mission starts at like 2:00 in the morning. You're here at 3 in the afternoon. It'll just skip ahead so that you can get there, which is great. But you know, there's some races and stuff where it's like, okay, well, this race only starts at this time and you can't skip ahead. So I'll skip to another character until it gets to that time, and then I'll go back. And man, does it make the game fresh. I mean, it always feels like, even though the character is just a different look of a person, you feel like they have personalities, and the clothes that they wear, the vehicles that they drive, the things that they say, kind of dictate how, you know, you want to play almost, right? You're like, I'm getting tired of kind of being like a suave guy, you know, like as Michael, you know, he's got suits on, he's driving nice cars. I kind of want to just like put on a wife beater, get in a dirty truck, and run people over on the highway. I'll go to Trevor, you know, and just go on a killing rampage. And you're like, okay, now I kind of want to see what it's like in the hood. And although that changes a little bit in the story later on, you know, you get to do that with Franklin, and you get his really crazy, really fantastically acted friends and family. The game is just, you know, when I said Battlefield 4 is kind of limitless in what you can do, GTA 5 is nearly limitless. I mean, just the way you introduced it is the exact perfect way to introduce GTA. Get in a car, mow down some people, steal a helicopter, fly around, shoot the police, jump out, steal a jet from the military base, which is huge, fly around in a jet, jump out, you know, free fall to the earth, swim around in the ocean, you know, go in a submarine. You know, and then when you're done the game, there's a UFO conspiracy thing going on where there's flying saucers in the world, and it's like, holy shit, this game is out of control. And so damn good. The online's been marred by a lot of problems, a lot of which I've complained about here on the show. But GTA 5 standalone for the campaign is worth $100. You know, if I had played the game and then I'd gone back in time and it was like, it's time to buy GTA 5 again, and it was like, yeah, price is $150, I'd be like, you know what, totally worth it for me anyway, personally, because of how much time I spent in this game. 160 hours, what does that equate to per hour in terms of cash? Like 20 cents?
Less than $1 an hour.
Yeah, less than $1 an hour.
If you paid $150, if you paid $60, then it's even less than that.
Yeah, so I mean, and yeah, I just bought the regular edition. I didn't care about any of the pack-in stuff, right? You got the one with the really cool UV map. Did you ever get that framed?
No, I haven't yet. That's one of the things that it's on my list.
Yeah, but I mean,
list.
you got a lot of you got the Los Santos hat and I think a T-shirt as well too, right?
No, I didn't get the $100 edition. I got the
Oh, okay.
$79 edition. The
All
$10
right,
more.
gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like totally worth every cent, right?
Well, totally. And the thing that about the game that kind of surprised me the most is when they introduce the characters. It's like first you start off with Michael, and he's just like he's going through problem. His marriage is breaking down. He's having issues. His kids hate him and tell him stuff right to his face, and it's just horrible. And then he meets up with Franklin, and Franklin's this gangster, and he has all these gangster friends, and they're doing petty crime and things like that. And it's just like, okay, these characters are cool. And then they introduce Trevor, and he's just absolutely insane, like grating insane. Like his character is just so horrible. And
I hated him at the beginning.
And it's just like, oh my God, I don't like him. I'm not going to like this. I'm not going to like any of his missions. I'm probably going to skip most of his stuff. And then I found out that by the end of the game, I only ever wanted to be Trevor. I never wanted to be any of the other characters. I wanted to see,
my favorite too.
I want to see the crazy crap that Trevor would do. I wanted to switch to him and see him going scooter buddy down the highway. It's like, hey, scooter buddy. Hey, scooter buddy. How you doing, scooter buddy?
I still haven't seen that too, which is, I mean, 160, like what, I guess I'm 70 hours into the campaign. Still have not seen that, which is crazy. Like it's coming eventually, whenever it happens.
Eventually. Other times he'll be naked out on the beach somewhere waking up drunk, or he'll be
and there's dead people everywhere.
And there's dead people everywhere, and he's like, oh, that was quite the party, and he throw the half empty bottle and then just continue on his thing. One time I woke up from him, or I switched to him. He was already awake, and he had some guy tied under the pier naked, except he was wearing a shirt, so he's naked from the bottom down, and he's like, yeah, we'll see how you like it when the tide comes in. And then he just like, it's like, oh, okay, so this guy's gonna die. All right, so you get up and you just do your other thing. Another time was you switch to him just as he's throwing a guy off a bridge into the ocean. It's just like, this guy is just insane, yet I can't look away. It's like a amazing car crash or not an amazing car crash, but it's like a car crash, but it's just amazing in how absurd it is at sometimes. It's
I woke up in the gutter behind the strip club, and he was wearing a woman's dress, and he was sleeping next to a dumpster.
Yeah, that's happened a couple times to me.
Like that's GTA 5 right there. I mean, that's like, how do you explain GTA 5? Every once in a while, you just wake up next to a strip club, next to a dumpster, wearing a dress. Like that's GTA 5. Yep. And man, is it just so unabashedly like unapologetic about everything. You're like, you don't like the game, fuck you then. Like you're an asshole for not liking our game. Like, and it's so well put together. The satire is at an all-time high, which it sometimes gets a little bit grating when like everything that you like doing is kind of looked down on. Like, the whole the bottled water commercial on the radio kills me when it comes on, and oh man, it's like a Buddhist monk trying to bring Buddhism to America, but with like, because Americans can't handle the Zen, he has to do it with like wrestling or something, like just some ridiculous concept. And it's just, it gets a little bit heavy-handed sometimes, but it's still very funny. The talk radio stations are great. Chakra Attack is fantastic. The Fernando Show. Yep. Then you go into Blaine County, and the
Danny McBride show is just hilarious.
Beyond insemination, man.
Oh,
he is so great.
Hilarious.
It's just like there's so okay. Let me try to think of what I don't like about GTA 5 that's not in the online, because I think in me putting GTA 5 on the list, I don't really consider online a part of that package. Some of the missions sometimes were a little bit difficult. But like that's okay. So that mission was hard. The game is shitty. No, I can't really think of anything that like pissed me off.
No, it's one of those
couple
games,
of deaths sometimes. Yeah,
totally. It's one of those games where you get annoyed at various parts through the game, but never to the point where you're like, oh, this thing sucks, and you take it out of your system. It's just
flying a helicopter.
Yeah.
But I'm good at it now. I got really good. I mean, 160 hours in, I damn well better be.
Yeah.
But it is super frustrating in the campaign, but maybe that's like the worst thing. Sometimes flying a helicopter.
Wow, this thing that's really impossible in real life is really hard to do in a video game. This game sucks.
Yeah. So like that's the worst thing about GTA 5 is helicopters suck. Pretty
Nice.
damn good game if that's the worst thing I can come up with, right? There's a
Exactly.
reason why it's my number 2.
So yeah, GTA 5 is my number 3 for 2013,
Mm-hmm.
and
My
GTA
number
5
2.
is your number 2 for 2013.
So
Cool.
now we're getting into the nitty gritty. Now, what's your number 2?
All right, well, let's go into this one. My number 2 for 2013 is another game that just came out recently. It is a game that I just recently finished playing and finished, and had a hell of a lot of fun while doing it, and that is Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS. This is the sequel to Zelda: A Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo, and it is a game that I didn't expect to like as much as I did. I knew I would like it, but I liked it even more than I thought I would like it. Just playing through it and experiencing the story. So you take part as Link, the hero of legend in Zelda, in the world of Zelda. You wake up and you do the normal thing. You wake up in your bed and you're super tired, and someone comes to your door, and then you walk out, and then you realize, if you've played the original, that the world that you wake up to is exactly Hyrule from the Super Nintendo. It's like the mini map looks the same. You know how to get to the castle if you played the game, of course. You know how to get to the city. You know how to go to the forest, and it's like, holy crap, this is the same game, but it looks way better. And then as you play through it, you find out that there's a bigger story. After you do the 3 things that you have to, and then you meet the big bad guy, which is a guy that can turn with his wand people into paintings, and he's out there to collect paintings of the 7 sages, and he ends up hitting you with it. But since you have a stone that prevents you from being turned into a painting, you then get the power to basically merge onto the wall, and then and then walk on the wall, or go through these little cracks that take you to the second world in this game, which is called Lorule. So you have Hyrule and Lorule, and then the story really opens up there when you have to go and hit all the dungeons. I really enjoyed that aspect. The other really interesting thing about this game is, unlike every Zelda, where you basically are doing everything in the same, you basically have a guide, a built-in guide in the game. That being, you can only do certain things until you have certain powers, and it's really kind of laid out. So you go to this dungeon to get the bow, and then you can go to this dungeon to get the fire rod, and then you go to this dungeon to get the hook shot. Then you go to this dungeon to get this thing. They've switched up in this one where there's a guy that will rent you any weapon at any time. So you can pay 50 rupees, say, to rent the bow and arrow, or you could buy it for 800 rupees. So starting early out, I rented everything, and then I went on my adventure. You can choose whichever dungeon you want to go to. Since you can get any weapon at any time, you're not limited to say, okay, I have to do the ice dungeon. Oh my God, the ice dungeon sucks. I want to do something else, but I can't because I have to beat the ice dungeon. You can say, well, ice dungeon sucks. I'm going to go back to town and go somewhere else.
When you die, does your rented weapon go back to the person?
Yeah, when you die, your rentals go away.
Okay.
If you've purchased it, it stays with you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you can't just keep it forever on a 50 rupee rental. But that really kind of opened it up, and it made Zelda less formulaic and less rote. Like, you could basically do whatever you wanted. I did things in a weird order. I wanted to find the Titan gloves, and I knew that Titan gloves were going to be in the sand place because it's told to you in the game. Basically, that's where you get them, but you can't get to the sand place until you've done some things. So it's like, okay, well, I got to figure out how to do those things. Oh, I can get to the sand place now. Go to the sand place, get the Titan gloves. It's like, oh, this is awesome. It's like, oh, well, I guess I should go do other things. And then I just randomly would pick a dungeon, go there, beat it, enjoy it. The best part about Zelda is that the dungeons are always designed really well. And in this one, they're designed even better because you have all the weapons. So it's not like you go into a dungeon where you would normally get, say, the bow and arrow, and there's a bunch of rooms that are set up for you without bows and arrows. And then you always see these little targets that you can't quite hit yet. And then you unlock the bow and arrow, and it's like, oh, I can go to all these other places. All the dungeons are designed with the thought that you're going to have everything. So they're tricky. You have to kind of think. Each of them still has their own trick. A lot of them will still need a specific weapon. So there'll be like a gap that you can't cross to get into the dungeon with a little thing saying, well, you need the little hurricane spinny thing. I can't remember what they call it in the game. The Gale wand, I think. It's like, oh, okay, I need that. So you go rent it, come back, and then you use that a lot during the dungeon. But it's not like the old ones where you wouldn't get that until you get through part of the dungeon to unlock it. So it really kind of mixed things up, which is really fun. Some other things that they did is using Street Pass with your 3DS. If you Street Pass someone that has the game, you can fight a ghost version or a shadow version of their Link. And there's an unlock that can happen once you fight a certain number of these people. So it's just another little story that you can take part in after beating the main story, which I thought was kind of cool as well. So yeah, this is like this is definitely the best Zelda that I've played in the last decade.
Wow.
It is amazing, better than all the Wii, the versions. It is an amazing title. If you have a 3DS, you go get this and play it because it is awesome. You will not regret it. If you've never played a Zelda before, this is a perfect Zelda for you. If you've played all the Zeldas before, it's the perfect Zelda for you. If you've only played some of the Zeldas, this is the perfect Zelda for you. It's that good, that well done, and is definitely worth being played by every single person that owns a 3DS. So do check it out. My number 2 for the year, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds.
I'm excited to play it. It'll probably be something I pick up in the new year, just because I've got so much to play. That I haven't really played. Like Pokemon is one of the games that I wanted to put on the list, but I still haven't beaten it yet, so I can't really, in all good conscience, like put it on the list. Like all these games are games that I've finished or games that I've played the shit out of, right? Except for NBA 2K14, I really want to buy that as well too. But man, Zelda sounds so friggin' good. And like everybody who has a 3DS is like, if you don't have this game and you have a 3DS, throw your 3DS away if you're not going to get it. Like you're an idiot, basically.
Totally. Like if you don't own this game and you have a 3DS, you're doing it wrong. You need to do it better. You've failed at the 3DS game. But yeah, it is so good, man. You need to pick up a copy for sure.
I'm excited to get it because like the last couple of handheld Zeldas have been okay. Spirit Tracks, I thought was all right, and the one before, the Phantom Hourglass, was okay, but man, the backtracking was just sucked the life out of you when you had to keep going back to that stupid dungeon and there was a timer. And but this one is like everyone loved. I have not heard a bad thing about this game.
No, it's the best Zelda was the Super Nintendo one. It's the one that has like some of the best scores. Or some people will argue that the N64 version is better. Whatever, you're basically splitting straws at that point. But one of the best Zeldas, if not the best Zelda, was the Super Nintendo version, and this is that with a whole new story. It's a direct sequel. And who would have thought that they would ever do a sequel in Zelda? It's always like, this is Zelda. Oh, this is another Zelda. It's in a different universe. Oh, this is another Zelda. Oh, it's in a different universe.
Well, I guess, oh shit, it's Spirit Tracks, which is, Phantom Hourglass, which is kind of a sequel to Wind Waker.
Right. Yeah. So there were some, but it wasn't. It's not a common thing.
But it's rare.
It's not like every Zelda is in some sort of timeline that you can follow. Although people on the internet have gone crazy and tried to put the timeline together, and it kind of works, even though the actual like producers and directors have said it's not the same world. Each world is its own little thing. People online don't want to listen to that, and they do their own thing, right? But but yeah, this one it's as perfect as you can get for a handheld RPG. It is just so much fun from start to finish. Definitely worth checking out if you have a 3DS. Go get it, Jeff.
Can't wait.
Go get it on Boxing Day. Go pick it up and play it. You will thank me.
I don't think it probably won't be cheaper on Boxing
Doesn't
Day.
matter.
Will it?
Pay double, and you will still have a good experience with this game.
I don't want to go on Boxing Day. I'm probably going to get it, in January at some point when my library has cooled down a little bit, along with NBA. But super pumped to play it because, like I said, no one said anything bad. One person once said something bad about it, and they're dead now.
Shot him.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
In the face. Oh, someone else.
Someone did.
Right.
They're dead now.
Right.
I guess we should finish our well, okay, so here's how this is going to work, I guess. Our game of the generation, both of ours, is going to be our game of the year. So we might as well just count down the rest of our games of Gen 7.
Sure.
And then we'll talk about our game of the year.
All right. My number 3.
It is the same.
My number 3 from the last generation, third game, Grand Theft Auto 5.
Nice. When you said that in our last show, I was disappointed I didn't put GTA 5 on my list. But like I said, the 10 better games. My number 3 was Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. Sorry, my number 3 was Uncharted 2 Among Thieves.
My number 2 was the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim.
My number 2 was also Elder Scrolls Skyrim, which, if it hadn't been for this other game, would have been number 1, because Skyrim is the shit.
Exactly. So our number 1 game for this generation, Generation 7, whatever you want to call it, the Wii 360 PS3 generation, and also our game of the year for 2013 is The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And
like deservedly so.
And Campus Crush / Candy Crush for Jeff.
Yeah, and
all the crushes. All the crushes.
Disney Infinity.
Yeah, all the crushes.
All the crushes.
For you.
God damn, is Last of Us good. I mean, holy shit.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's from the first trailer, I was really worried. I was like, "Oh, okay, this is going to be stealthy without the stealth, but with the stealth, and you're going to be building your own weapons and scavenging." I was like, "Oh, this isn't going to work out." And I got really, really skeptical close to its release. It's like, "Oh, yeah. I'm going to buy it and I'm going to play it, but this is going to not be so good. I have a feeling." Turns out that was all for nothing, because it is pretty damn awesome.
Yeah. And I remember when we were doing these dudes on games like 2.5 years ago, something like that, a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about the E3 trailer for The Last of Us, and we're like, yeah, it looks really great, but you had your reservations, because you're like, I don't know if it can work, like Naughty Dog's great, but they're known for doing these action-heavy games. Yeah. And, it did look very Sam Fisher when they were showing it to us, right?
Yep.
But I was super stoked, and everything I heard, and saw from then on, like, only made me more stoked, and the commercials were great. And then I'm like, I gotta play it. And I wasn't disappointed in any way, shape, or form. Just such a great piece of art. I mean, the characters, the situation they put you in is just horrendous. The way the game opens is, I think, maybe one of the best video game openings I've ever seen. It's so friggin' it just rips your friggin' heart out, right? And then you're like, okay, now you're playing a game again. Like, go do it.
The opening was really hard for me. Like, I have kids.
Yeah, especially for you, right?
And the opening basically takes place with a kid and something happening, and it's just like, I had to pause the game and just kind of sit there and go, holy shit, what did I just go through? Like, I was emotionally drained after that intro, and it's like, holy crap, this is the first like 30 minutes of the game. This game is 14 hours. What the heck is my heart going to go through? Will I be able to handle this as I get from start to finish?
And the answer is barely.
Yeah, it's from like literally from start to finish. It is one adrenaline fueled rush. Obviously, there's lows. You're not always on the speedy version of your rush. You sort of level out a little bit. There's times where you're fighting for your life. There's times where you're in a bed and can't move. I mean, there's all these great set pieces and experiences and things that they throw you into. And it just keeps moving the story from start to finish. This really great story of what would happen if humanity basically was destroyed because of a virus. And in this game, it's not really a virus, but it's something that causes these people to basically start like sprouting mushrooms from their face, and they turn crazy, and then they go and they attack people. And it's basically a story about that. What would happen if society fell? Like, what would happen to the rest of the people that were basically alive at that time? And as you would expect it to be, it's pretty dread-filled experiences. Like, you go around a corner and it's like, holy crap, there's a group of people. Are they going to shoot me? Are they going to take my stuff? Are they going to let me pass? Like, you never know what's going to happen. And society is basically like devolved into their basis instincts. It's like find food, find people to take advantage of, find love without asking for it. Like there's all these like terrible things that are happening all around you. And it's like, holy crap, this is probably what would happen. This is what the real zombie apocalypse would be like. There'd be camps of people, and there'd be people that ran those camps that would just do horrible things to the people because they could, and there's no one else that could stop them from doing it.
Yeah, I mean, very, very apt, description of what's going on in this game at literally every second. And it's like Metro Last Light in that way, where it's like, there are these last vestiges of mankind, and they're shit. Like people go and think maybe it's better on the outside, and it's not. It's not better at all. But it's so bad on the inside that you're like, shit. Like, well, what kind of a choice do I have here? And the game does this really interesting thing with the narrative, where it starts in that opening kind of prologue section, and then it opens up to like, what is it, 20 years later or something like that? Like a long time has passed, and the game. The story itself starts, and then as you finally get out of the quarantine zone, the city, the game's story kind of changes really abruptly. You're like, okay, so you thought it was going to be a story about this, and now it's changed, and it's a pretty noticeable change, and you know what's coming. And then when you get to, I think it's Philadelphia, or maybe I can't remember, but you get to that place where you're supposed to drop off Ellie, right, with Tess, and then the game changes again. And it changes so brutally and so harsh, and you're like, well, that was awful. And then they do this great thing where, okay, well, now it's fall, right? And like just this black screen, white text comes up and it just says fall. And you're like, well, okay, holy shit, like that was hardcore. And I think, like a lot of people, my feeling is that the winter section of this game is maybe one of the greatest video game levels of all time. I'm saying this a lot, one of the greatest video game X of all time, but man, this game really embodies so much of that, Yeah. I mean, winter is, it's so rough, it's so dark, and yet you want nothing more than to be involved in these actions, right? Because at this point, you're so connected with these characters that you don't care what you have to do or how you have to do it. You're gonna, finish this objective, and because of that, the game's violence is extremely harsh, but like justified, right? In a very bizarre way that makes you not really feel all that good about yourself. You take a brick and you crush it into a guy's face, or you slam his neck into a chunk of glass, or you're shooting people in the face, or you're cracking them in the head with a baseball bat with nails in it, and those are just the people, right? And then there's like all these monsters as well too, which are more dangerous and more intimidating, and you're like coming up behind them and taking a shiv that you crafted out of some tape and a hunk of glass, and you're shoving it into their neck, and it's like, man, it's not like that's a couple isolated incidents. That's every single time you're in combat.
Yeah.
Every single time.
That is 14 of the 16 hours is that type of stuff happening.
It's really brutal. And you sit there and you go, holy shit. We play violent games all the time, right? Gears of War, you get a chainsaw on your gun and stuff like that. But it's kind of
it's like a cartoon. Like it's exaggerated. But this is not. This is bleak, crazy, oh my god, dread type actions all the time, which really, for me at least, a lot of stuff that was happening around like children or whatever, it was tugging at my heartstrings constantly, seeing all this stuff happening, and it's just like, holy crap, like what would I do if I was in this world? Like, how would I survive? What would I do to survive? And you kind of have that sort of moral talk with yourself while playing this game, and you realize that maybe bashing a guy up the side of the head with a brick to save you and your friends is what you would do, because it's kill or be killed in this world, and and there's a lot of things in this world that would kill you, so you have to be kind of a badass, hard ass to kind of make it in the world that is in The Last of Us.
Yeah, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about like our opinions on the ending as well too, without giving spoilers away.
Yeah,
the ending is certainly one of those like galvanizing moments in this year of gaming. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was absolutely what the character would do in that situation.
100% on character to what he would do.
Yeah. But that doesn't make me feel very good about the decision, right?
No.
Like,
No,
you're like,
totally.
oh, still really rough. But
Yeah.
man, it just gives you, like, the entire game. They don't lie to you. It's rough out there, and it's said multiple times. And then when your character has to execute on that mentality, man, is it really kind of like you have to swallow hard, right?
Yep.
And I'm very excited for the DLC. I kind of wish that it wasn't a prequel. We all want that DLC that's post the events of the end of the game.
Yep.
I don't think we'll get it, but I'm very interested in what the story-based DLC is going to offer. The multiplayer is also very, very fun. I did really enjoy it. It's not something I'm going to play a lot of. I might play 20 hours in the entire life of the game,
Sure.
but it's still pretty interesting and pretty fun. It's like a factions kind of thing. But the reason you buy this game is because the story, and the side characters are all great, and the motion cap and the acting is fantastic, and the writing is really great, and goddamn, everything about this game is great. It's just, I get like GTA 5. What is there anything that I can say that's bad about this game? Sometimes it gets kind of hard.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Yeah.
I really liked all of it.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. I mean, this was an experience where after I finished the game, I sat there for a second. And I was just like, holy crap, what just happened? And you try to play over the whole game, the whole 16 hours or whatever, however long it took you to play. And it's just like, I did all that stuff. Holy crap. And then immediately you want to find someone else that played the game and got to the end so you could talk about all the crap that you went through, all the people that were involved in the game and in the game, like not the people making the game, but the characters in the game.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the ending. You want to talk about all this. And it's just like, it's one of those moments that you have as a gamer where it's just like, holy crap, I just had this experience. I had this collective experience with other people as well. And I can really get in there and start chatting with people about what my thoughts about this plague are and all this other things. It was pretty amazing. And just like you, I want the DLC. I want to see more in this world. I hope there's a Last of Us 2, even though they pretty much told the story of The Last of Us. I still think there's a lot more that could be told in this world, whether they touch the main characters or not. It's just a really interesting world with these like fungus face zombie guys, which are really different than a lot of the other zombies that you've ever fought in other games. They were different enough to kind of be fresh, even though zombies are really kind of played out these days.
Yeah, I like that they basically made a zombie game that is not a zombie game, right? They got away with it because they just didn't call them zombies. They're like, these are something different, and not only is it different, but like the mechanics of how you attack and dispose of these things are significantly different, and that was all really cool. I would love a DLC or a future game to be about Joel's brother, because I think that's a super interesting character, and his kind of lockdown of the dam is really cool to me. And I think maybe if I had like one kind of gripe about the game was that it's too much combat and not enough just walking around and talking to people, because that stuff where like you're safe and you can go walk around and explore, like the sequence with the giraffes, that's all I'll say, is so damn good, and like you can just stand there and watch them forever. And the music that comes on is absolutely beautiful, and it's just such a perfect moment, and that in a few minutes you're gonna have to fight some horrible friggin' creatures, which like makes that moment even more amazing, right?
It's a little oasis in the desert of craziness that is happening, right?
I wanted them to kind of ratchet back on the combat moments a little bit and give us more dialogue, but like really, certainly not certainly I am not the person to kind of jump into that script and rewrite it to give me more of those moments. I think what needed to be said was said, and that's good enough in those dialogue sequences. But man, a fitting game of the year. I think it's going to be a lot of people's game of the year. And for good reason, I think a lot of people are going to switch that game out with BioShock Infinite. And kind of the same thing. I think the biggest reason why BioShock Infinite's not on my list, and this one is because I'm playing through The Last of Us a second time and enjoying it just as much as I did the first time.
Sure.
In BioShock Infinite, I didn't enjoy as much. So that's kind of the designation for me. But yeah, just a unbelievably great game. And I actually watched the cutscenes all put together on YouTube, and also great. Just watch the cutscenes. Fantastic.
I'll have to do
Because
that.
in between the cutscenes, it's just fighting anyway.
Sure.
So it actually kind of plays like a movie. I think it's like a little over an hour or a little under an hour or something like that. So it's fairly long.
Cool.
But I mean, again, it's a 16-hour game, so pretty awesome. Damn good year for gaming.
Oh, it's been amazing. We were spoiled this year because it was the dawning of a new generation of consoles. So we had all the best AAA titles as kind of the swan song for each of the big publishers to throw on the old hardware, do one last kick at the can before moving to the next gen. So in another 5 years, we'll probably have another great year like this one, because I don't foresee the next console generation lasting as long as this one did. So maybe in 5 years.
If you don't have a last gen console, now has never been a better time to buy one.
Totally.
Like
just for games that came out this year.
Yeah, get a PS3, man, because like there are some games that will not come out on. Prometheus was asking, like, do you think GTA will come out on the next gen? And I'm pretty sure Rockstar has said it won't. I don't think they will. They're going to do a PC port eventually, but it's a this gen game or a previous gen game now. Yeah, pick up one of those consoles if you haven't, because Jesus, the library of games you're buying into for $200 is insane. It's and you're going to get some good games boxed in, and get yourself PS Plus and get free games for a year.
Yeah, or sales.
Yeah, awesome generation, man.
Yeah.
Awesome generation.
Totally. All right, man. Well, that's about all she wrote for this episode and for 2013 for the bonus stage. Thanks to everybody for subscribing and checking out all the shows on the network at vgpodcast.com. Let us know what you think. vgpodcast@gmail.com is our voicemail. 505 VG Podcasts. Jeff, thanks for sticking with it and joining me for the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been. It's been a lot of fun doing shows.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And like when I started this show back with Tom like 5 years ago on YouTube, like I never thought it would get to this level, and like really I think the show has never been better.
Yeah.
It's really like better than I thought it could ever be. And it sucked when we did one radio episode and then the station got shut down.
Sure.
But I honestly think that here on the network the show is way better than it could have ever been on the radio, mostly because of the interaction that we can have with viewers,
Yeah, no, it's been really cool. And I mean, the best part about this show is it was a podcast that was just renamed because we had this outlet that then got taken away, right?
Yeah.
So this was These Dudes on Games, not These Dudes Got Games. It was a weekly show. It changed its name, but it really kind of stayed the same as to what it always was. That said, moving forward, there's definitely going to be some changes to the way the show is. I don't think these 3-hour epic Hail Marys are really going to be the direction moving forward. And there's probably going to be a lot more changes. There's going to be some Let's Play aspects. There's going to be some community gaming. I mean, lots of changes to what this Friday night show is here on the network. So do stay tuned and do check us out at vgpodcast.com for all the other shows that we do as well. All right, well, I guess that's it, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, hopefully you have a safe and happy holiday season, a wonderful New Year's, and going into a great 2014. Get out there, play some games, get some good deals, and we'll talk to you sometime in 2014. Take it easy, everybody. It wouldn't be the show if I didn't screw up the music key, because I have everything.
It wouldn't be at all.
Because I have everything turned down, so that was the problem. How about I start that again?
Way to end it.
Yeah. Later, everybody. Miss my cue again.
Let's get started.